Good evening and welcome to the July 10th, 2018 regular City Council meeting. Before we begin the meeting, let me review the procedures for the meeting. The audience is reminded that this is a business meeting of the City Council, therefore clapping, cheering, and outbursts are not permitted. Speakers must complete a request to speak form located at the entrance of the council chamber. Submit your completed form to either the city clerk or the sergeant at arms. When your name has been called, use the microphone at the lectern on the audience's right and state your name and address. If you do not wish to publicly state your street address, you may state only your city or unincorporated Brevard County. Speak to City Council as a body. Do not address the mayor and City Council members individually. Be mindful of the timer at the front of the room and wrap up your comments before speaking time ends. The following time limits will generally apply. Speaking times may be varied by the mayor with the approval of City Council. Public comments, most agenda items, and consent agenda up to 3 minutes. Items designated as a public hearing, petitions, remonstrances, and communications up to 5 minutes. An applicant, representative, or person who has legal standing to support or oppose a quasi-judicial matter will be permitted enough time as reasonably determined by the City Council to create a record before the City Council. These matters generally include site plan, plat, zoning of property, conditional use, variance, building-related permit or appeal, abandon and vacate requests, annexation, and other applications of law to specific properties. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll begin the invocation with Pastor Ken Ellis from the Living Waters Church of God of Melbourne. And if you wish to participate in the invocation, please stand.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you
for standing. And if you would join me first in the Lord's Prayer, shall we bow our heads? Heavenly Father, we thank you today for your blessing. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Father, we so thank you for allowing us the ability, God, to be here. And Lord, to witness the fact that much activity, Lord, is involved in this meeting. And Lord, we just pray special blessing on the mayor, city manager, and the council members, and all present. We ask, God, that the right things will be done under your auspices and care, that you will lead us to make right and good and wise decisions about our city. And we just pray blessing upon our city, blessing, Lord, upon our first responders, blessing, Lord, upon all of those who are in different services for our community and citizens. And we pray that, God, you will continue to give us favor and give us wisdom, and may we have a heart of mercy and compassion upon those less fortunate. We thank you, Lord, and we give you all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Ellis. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, under A3, roll call, Ms. Weiser.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Here.
Mayor Meehan.
Here. Item A4, proclamations and presentations. I have none tonight. Item A5, approval of the minutes. Council, what is your pleasure of June 12, 2018 regular meeting?
Mayor, so move.
I have a motion by Ms. Lopez, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item A6, City Manager's Report. Mr. McNeish, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor Meehan. You have my monthly activities. Be happy to answer any questions there. My activities report, that is. The other thing I want to do tonight is I want to call out a couple people specifically publicly for some work that should be recognized related to a milestone that just took place last couple weeks ago. As you know, the city completed the sale of what we used to call the Marina Towers property. I think now we call it the Riverwalk Marina property. In fact, the proud owner of that property is here tonight on another project, and happy to see him. But it was almost exactly 5 years ago, probably this month, that former deputy city manager and former city engineer Howard Rawls came into my office with this idea about this waterfront property that had kind of languished, and had learned that the price had been dropped, and had a notion that if the city got involved in that property and turned it around, we might be able to make something better out of it than it did just let it sit there. And it wasn't probably more than 60 days later when the city council had approved that purchase, and which took a little bit of guts, I think, at the time, and probably more than a little. And we brought that into public ownership, and I just thought it was only fair tonight that Howard Rawls certainly deserves a public pat on the back for having the foresight to recognize that opportunity. And, you know, we weighed the risks and took it on, and we've turned around and with a commitment of a really, really fine development project. The other person I want to pat on the back is the successor to Mr. Rawls, Shannon Lewis, who wrangled that property through 2 rounds of proposals from potential development partners, and through a couple of hurricanes that gave us fits over things like seawalls and boat barns, and just did a fantastic job of keeping her nose to the grindstone until we had that property actually turned around and back in private hands. So I want to thank them publicly, and also the council for sticking to that one, and we look forward to seeing what happens next with that property.
Yes,
thank you.
Very good. Anything else for Mr. McNeese? All right, well, Mr. McNeese, I do want to say about the July 4th celebration and all the sponsors as part of that. That was a great show. And so hopefully maybe we'll get an update on the next council meeting on the 24th, and then thank our sponsors because they were awesome. Anybody else? Yeah,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Thomas.
Yeah, a great job on the fireworks. That was awesome. Fantastic time. So a great job, Kevin, and all your team and what you did. Also, city manager, I know we have some folks here that are interested in an update as far as what's going on with the abandoned boats and living on boats in the harbor. If you can address that real fast.
Yes, I'd be glad to. There's been a lot of attention recently, I would say, publicly over some of our specific issues related to, and there are probably a number of categories of these boats, but boats that are abandoned and perhaps have sunk during one of our storms and not yet been picked up, or that are just abandoned, boats that are being lived in, possibly illegally, that are moored in the bay here or there, that may or may not be movable, which whether or not they're movable or by their own power affects how they're classified legally. And derelict boats that have just been abandoned completely, either on the shoreline or in the water. And we have staff working those issues from the city attorney's office. Suzanne Crockett has done some great legal research on the different classifications of these boats and what leverage there is. There are issues related to whether they're dumping in the river, which is a huge concern, which brings in other jurisdictions and other laws that come into effect. We do have a city law that prohibits just living in a boat in the bay without any sanitary facilities, that we're working through the police department, that Chief Gillespie and his folks are working to enforce. And we're kind of coming at those from a number of angles, and I think they kind of come in cycles. We had a lot of boats that were broken free during the hurricane, had a round of pickup of those boats by the state at different places in the lagoon. We helped inventory those. And what I think I'd like to do is, if I can sort of bring a summary report to the council in the next 30 days or so on what we've done to date and how we're trying to enforce these things. The legal issues are very complicated. The enforcement issues involve a number of jurisdictions, some of which are us. We want to do what our part is and maybe give you all a better report on that, because I know it's getting a lot of interest here in the last, it seems like 30 days or 60 days in the public. I just want people to know, yes, we are working those issues and want to make sure we deal with everything that we can. And the environmental issue is huge. We don't want people dumping their sewage directly into the bay. The issues of people who live on the bay, who might have a boat moored in the river near their home, is a little stickier, what leverage we have, but we want to do what we can, and we'll bring you a report on what those things are and how we're trying to approach it.
All right, so is there an ordinance how long they can stay out there?
Yes.
We do have a city ordinance that specifies you cannot just live on a boat parked in the water. And that's some of the information I want to bring you back.
Okay.
But isn't our ordinance address 72 hours? A boat can stay there for 72 hours?
Go ahead. I don't know exactly what it says in that.
I read it.
It's not, to the extent that we have an ordinance that says you can't be on a boat for 72 hours, it's not enforceable. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other tools in the toolbox to use. So that's, I think, what the city manager is suggesting, that we do the full report so we can explain all the different options that we have to enforce it.
All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Also, I think I mentioned this to the city manager today too. Hey, I know we have lots of local help too, that if we needed to get legislation from the State House, there's several folks down here I know that would help us do that to make sure that we hold these marinas accountable as well as the boat owners if we need to tighten up the law. So that's another thing. Hopefully we can get a report on if we need to try to do that. Just real quick, guys, I went down to the pier that's just north of the bridge there on US 1, that's directly north also of Waterline Marina.
Right.
And guys, if you get a chance, don't do it at nighttime, do it during the daytime. It's atrocious down there. The number of dilapidated liveaboard boats, it blows my mind. And it's something that's just going to continue to snowball unless we take control of the situation quick and start doing something about these boats and these people that are living on board the boats. Okay. You can see the discoloration in the water out there. You can see where the diesel fuel is leaking out. The water is turning different colors. And so I appreciate the city manager and what the city attorney's doing and looking at this and giving us a report in 30 days so that we can see the proactive measures we're going to take to try to resolve this. Because if not, we're going to have, it's going to be Hobo Island out there. Yeah. And it's looking really bad. And so I hope that we'll be able to get something done quick.
Yep. Mayor?
Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, just want to address the city manager and city attorney real quick, because I was a Marine officer in the Coast Guard for many years, and one avenue that we might try to utilize is to get a hold of Port Canaveral, have them come down, because they can go on board and do safety checks, and they can immediately start violating, because I know our hands are kind of tied, because it's kind of a multi-jurisdictional county, city and stuff, but they have federal jurisdiction, and they have a lot more power than we do. So that might be a thought that we get the Coast Guard down here, start logging them and going on board, because if there's leaking fuel and such, we can take action immediately. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Mayor?
All right. So, I got Ms. Moore and then Ms. Lopez.
We're talking 30 days. I was hoping, we have quite a few people here this evening that would like to address this issue, because these boats are sitting right out of their windows, practically right up. I drove down and I looked, and I understand where they're coming from. We're talking 30 days. I like instant gratification. I would like to think that there's something that we can do
immediately
for 30 days. And I want to hear what the people have to say. They're going to speak on public comments.
Yes, I am going to allow public comments.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. McNeese.
Well, Mayor, let me restate what I said before. The only thing I want 30 days for is to provide a report back to you. We are already working these issues.
Okay.
The police department has already been citing people. We've already done, Commissioner Thomas mentions, or Councilman Thomas mentions the Waterline Marina. We've already done a significant amount of enforcement there and cleanup. So these things are underway. What I just need a little more time is to collate it all and make it organize what we're doing and organize what we're trying to do, organize the legal report on it, to provide that information back to you. We are already working the issue and have been for some time. It will be a perpetual issue for us. It's something that we'll have these issues as long as we exist, but we need to do the best job we can of being aggressive where we can. There are certain things we can't do that much about as far as a boat mooring in the harbor, but what we can do, we want to do.
Okay. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, I did forward the emails I received directly to the city manager, and I did discuss this issue with him. He did tell me they were already working on it. What I would suggest is the first meeting in August that we put this item on the agenda for a full discussion to take action. That's why I believe should be done. So it's not just a report, it's really to take action.
All right, and, all right, so you recommend first meeting in August? Is that, staff, is that going to give you enough time?
Well, Mayor, I think what I'm trying to say is there isn't probably any action needed by City Council because we have a city ordinance that we're enforcing. There are state laws we can enforce and state agencies of jurisdiction. And I'm not aware at this point in time of anything we would ask from the council to act on. We already understand that you want us to work this problem with every tool that we have. We have that direction already. So I'd say that if as we continue work, if we feel like there's something that could be written into your ordinance to strengthen it, that's
what
not
I
in,
was suggesting.
but the issues being state law governs for the most part what we can and can't do. We don't have the ability to give ourselves authorities that the state withholds from us. So I mean, we can come back to you in August and tell you whether we think there's anything that you can add to your ordinance. But as far as that goes, we don't really need you to take any action for us to do what we can already do, which is what we're committing to do.
Mayor, I think the ordinance does have to be looked at, and I think the city council should have some input on the ordinance. And as well as, I think the police chief should also be part of the discussion, so he can give us an update as well of what's going on there.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thomas?
Sir, have you gone down to that pier, again, that I'm talking about, that's just north of the water line? Because if you haven't seen that lately,
Not
I'd really like for you
recently.
to go down and take a
I'll go
look
down
at
there
that.
this week.
Because it's atrocious.
I'll go down there tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
You mean, Councilman Thomas, you mean
Alfrey.
Horse Creek? So you're talking about Horse
Yeah,
Creek?
just north of US, just the bridge on US 1.
Yeah, that's
just
Horse Creek,
north of
yeah,
there.
okay. Yeah, Horse Creek.
Wait a minute. Hold it.
Galley.
You're out of order. You can't talk out of the audience, please. Hold on. All right.
Mayor, can somebody tell me exactly where it is? Because I am a little bit confused and I would like to go and take a look myself.
Okay, you know where the waterline apartments are at? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you're on US 1 and you're heading north on US 1, you go past the waterline apartments, that's Sarno Road right there. Well, then you go over the bridge, right to your right. There's a kind of like a boat ramp that goes down, well, actually, it's not even a boat ramp, it's steps that go down into an area where there's a pier, and then there's all kinds of dilapidated boats that are down there. And there's people living on the dilapidated boats.
Is it easiest to get in there by going into where the apartment complex is and parking there? And
It might be, and then you can walk down the sidewalk. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. Now, there's kind of a vacant building that's right there as you go over the bridge that you can make a hard right into, but you have to really be careful because there's a lot of traffic. You're going to get rear-ended possibly. So it's probably best to park at the water line, walk down the sidewalk down there.
Right.
But I wouldn't go down by yourself. Go down with somebody, especially don't go down there anywhere near nighttime, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, I
Anything
live down during the
else?
day. Mayor.
All right. Vice Mayor Minus.
May I ask the city manager, is there any way we can have a priority on some areas or worse than others? Like council member was mentioning about that one as being very atrocious. Can you give that priority or some of the others and work our way up or down?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say that's what we're doing. That area that's being talked about right now has become a real problem, and some other surrounding areas that are close to there. If people are aware of other specific hotspots, I'd love to know about them. But we're trying to address that as a priority now.
Okay. I am going to open up for public comments. So.
Okay.
But before I do, just let everybody know, item 19 on our agenda has been removed, and also item 23 has been removed by the applicant. So if you're here for item 23, just to let you know. All right, so public comments. Ms. Weiser, do I have any? I think I do.
Yes, you do.
I know. Okay. I have a boatload
Boom, boom.
of,
Pardon
no
the
pun
pun.
intended, sir.
Very good, Mayor.
All right, so first item is Donald Belcher. And sir, you can give your name and city. You don't have to give your address.
Thank you, Madam and Mayor. Thank you very much, and appreciate the audience, men and women of the council. I appreciate that. I'm a victim of what is called
Sir, are you city?
Melbourne.
I assume City of Melbourne, right?
City of
Okay,
Melbourne.
all
Yep, in the same area you're talking about.
Okay.
We moved over from Indialantic a few months ago and bought the house at 980 West Whitmire. And we bought it's a beautiful home. It has windows all the way around it with water on 3 sides. That was the reason we bought the house. So we wake up one morning and about 2 months ago, and somebody had dumped this dilapidated houseboat in front of one of our windows. And it's literally, by the title, by the way, the survey says it's on my property, but the property line is 100 feet off of the seawall. But that's another issue. However, it is within 4 feet of the seawall. And the nice view we had across the harbor, looking at the beautiful marinas and nice across, you have this big, ugly, dilapidated blue boat. A couple of people showed up on it a time or two, and then we put up security cameras and lights, and they disappeared. So either the boat's stolen or somebody's wanted and they don't want their face shown or whatever. So this is a real problem. So we are a victim of what we call dump and run. They dumped the boat and left. The Marine officer was there. In fact, he asked us to call him one time, and he went out and made contact with some people on the boat and wrote some kind of a ticket. I don't have the feedback from the officer on what he did, but so they're watching it. But the bottom line is I would like the boat to go away. I would like it to go to somebody else's house and park.
Okay.
And this ordinance that we're talking about is rescinded or it's archived, and it allowed 3 days of staying before you had to leave. That's what 14-18, I believe, is the ordinance number. And I believe what has to happen is that ordinance has to be brought to life. It's dead right now, as I understand it. And I'm a new resident there, so I may have that wrong, but that's my understanding. Thank you very much.
All right. Next is Amy Harold. Amy, it's good to see you. Part of the Egret project.
Nice to be back. Thought I
Yes.
could retire this shirt.
No, never retire it.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for addressing this problem. The area that we're talking about is the Ogallie River Basin, the Turn Basin. So it's, between Sarno and it's the US 1 area right there. So, the city of Melbourne, the county, the state, the residents of, Ogallie River, we have worked 8 years, and you guys have, invested $20 million into this dredge. And to watch it all get cleaned out and then being dumped back in, it's a waste of everybody's time and money. So, whatever you guys can do, we certainly appreciate it. And if you need help from the residents, we're good at going to the state. We can have success, and we just, we don't want to see this waterway just be used by a few people that can enjoy it on the boats. We've gone out on our boats, and the people that are living on these boats, I don't want to say it costed us, but you can't get through without them yelling at you, "Hey, come here!" It's obtrusive, and it's kind of scary. And with the new frigates going in, and with the new the Riverwalk coming in, but Ballard Park is so important to Brevard County. And you pull out there and you put in your kayaks and your boats, you want to go to the restaurants and you want to go up the river. But if you come out and you see these people, it's not necessarily people, it's just dilapidated boats, and it's scary. We don't get a lot of kayakers anymore because they have to wind their way through. And, just to dump their their waste into the river that you guys just paid to clean out. It just doesn't make sense. So
Okay.
we appreciate it, and thank you for having us. And if it's anything we can do on our behalf,
Okay.
please let
Well,
us
you know we'll get a hold of you.
Thank you.
That's right. Thank you. Steve Cordell.
Yeah, my name is Steve Cordell. I am the owner of Waterline Marina, and I live right there in the yacht basin that Amy's talking about. There is a state statute that does state right now that you cannot anchor within 150 feet of a marina, a boatyard, a mooring field, or a public boat launch. Right now, there are 8 boats anchored within 150 feet of 2 marinas and 1 boatyard. Nothing is being done about this. These are derelict vessels that are going to be a problem when a storm comes. They don't have proper anchors out. They don't have proper anchor road. When a storm comes, they're going to break free, and they're going to do damage to private property. We all know they don't have insurance, and they don't have the means to pay to repair what they've damaged, yet they're going to be responsible. They're going to walk away from their boats.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, it's a big hazard for us. It's a big liability at this point. So anything you guys can do to help would be appreciated.
Okay.
And I'm here, anybody had any questions or needs our help at all, please just let me know.
Will do. Okay,
May I
Miss
ask you a
Moore.
question?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Cordell?
Mr. Cordell, may I ask you a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
You gave us the number of boats that are out there. Are people living on these full-time?
Yes, ma'am. There are, not on all of them, on some of them that I know of, yes.
Okay,
There's actually one out there that I charge a $125 fee a month to come in and use our restrooms just to help prevent them from using the restroom in the river. That is part of our business and what we do sometimes, but I mean, an extended period, that's not what that's for. But I've been trying to help out the situation. So I'd rather see them use my restrooms
and then the river.
than use the river.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they were all like 24/7 lived.
No, I know
or
of-
if some come like weekends kind of thing.
I know of 3 different vessels that are 24/7,
Okay,
and I know they do not have proper heads on those vessels.
okay,
And I know they don't run, and they're supposed to be running within 72 hours. That's one thing that the City of Melbourne Police Department is working. I work with them a lot. That's one thing they are trying to do right now, is if your vessel is not running, you have 72 hours to make it run, then they write them a ticket.
okay.
The City of Melbourne, I mean, the police department right now is 19 officers short, so they don't have the personnel to go out there and pursue this on a regular basis. They're kind of hit or miss every couple of weeks.
My next question is, and maybe you know the answer, are all these boats registered? They all have numbers on them?
As far as I know, they are now, because the City of Melbourne Police Department went out there and made them get registered and wrote them tickets for not being registered.
Okay, so
But
we
there
have-
again, we don't know. I mean, if we have a storm come in and they break their anchor, drag their anchor, they run into my dock or their dock or somebody else's boat, they're just going to walk away and let the city once again pay to clean up the derelict boats that this gentleman was talking about earlier.
Well, I was just wondering if my question is, we have a name then,
Yes.
if they've registered these boats?
Yes, ma'am. But if they don't have anything it's trying to get, blood out of a rock kind of thing if they walk away. I mean, they couldn't even pay to get the boats up last time, and that's what will happen again. They just walk away, wash their hands, and it's the city's problem to pay the money to get the boat up, and it's my problem to pay to fix my property.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
All right, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Just south of Pure Alpha behind Waterline Apartments, there's a half-submerged boat that's just laying there. Do you know whose boat that is by chance?
That boat's gone.
That's gone? Mm-hmm. Okay, because I was out there Friday taking pictures of it, and it was still there.
Where?
Just south of Pier A behind Waterline, probably about 50
Oh,
yards.
that boat right there. That was a gentleman's who was out there. He bought that boat in to take the Bahamas, and he didn't realize it went down. He already raised it up, and I think they hauled it off today. They floated it. There was a boat he bought and wanted to take to the Bahamas, and they floated it, put it on a trailer, and got rid of
Well,
it.
that's great if it's gone. I was out there Friday, and it was still there, so I'll check.
Actually, he didn't even know it had gone down Friday. When you saw it, I had to let him know.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cordell. Next is Richard Wagner. Sir, right over here. Thank you.
My name is Rick Wagner. I live at 905 North Harbor City Boulevard, which is the Old Galley Harbor Club, right in front of Waterline Marina. And I am so happy that the city is trying to do something to clean the situation up. But it's not just the boats that are anchored out in the harbor. There's 2 marinas, Waterline and the marina to the north. There's also a 3rd marina. I don't know much about the 3rd one. I believe the marina to the north Waterline is 1101 North Harbor City Boulevard. That has many derelict boats, many liveaboards. I don't know if the city allows liveaboards on those boats or not. Waterline Marina also has liveaboards, and it's my understanding there's no liveaboards allowed. Now, Mr. Cordell, who is just up here, will tell you, well, there's part of the ordinance, I can move liveaboards in and out every 21 or 22 days. If they leave for a day, they can come back and stay another 21 days. And then they can leave for a day and come back. Well, I'm not positive. I can't verify whether they're coming or going, but I can tell you that if there is a clause in the ordinance, it defeats the issue of liveaboards, because it allows people to live aboard permanently. I can pull my boat out of the marina for one day and come back and just repeat. Well, to me, that's liveaboard. So there's a problem in the ordinance. The other thing is that Mr. Cordell says he has one person that he gives support to. Mr. Cordell had at least 2 or 3 people. He reported this at a board meeting. Without the help of these marinas, such as that one at 1101 and Waterline, these people could not exist out in the harbor because they wouldn't have land access. Now, they may be able to use Ballard Park for land access, but if the marinas in this vicinity were not allowing these people to come in and dock at their facilities, come in and move around to land, then those people couldn't exist, because you can't permanently exist in the on a hook. You just on an anchor. It just doesn't work. Again, I appreciate the city council's time and effort in this. Any way I can help, I would be glad to do it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wagner. Next is Scott Ellis, followed by Tina Cox.
I'm not here to talk about the liveaboards, so perhaps let the liveaboards finish.
I'm not sure, they didn't put liveaboards, so I'm not sure. All right, Tina Cox, are you here for the boats? Okay, all right. Martha Mayer, are you here for the boats? Okay. Stephanie Mayer, boats? Okay. And then, okay, let me see here. I got Bonnie McDonald Pizzell. Are you here for, no, you're not here for the boat. Okay. All right. All right, Tina Cox.
I'm Tina Cox in Melbourne, Florida.
Okay.
Have been living at my residence for 28 years, and I've never seen so many derelict boats in our little bay there. And the trash that's coming off the boats, they just throw their bottles in their trash, and toilet paper and needles and all kinds of stuff. I know that there's a lot more people living aboard than they might not be there 24/7, but they're using them as drug houses as well, because I see the evidence of that coming floating down on my property. And in January, I think I counted 11. Yesterday, I counted 17. And those are just the ones that are anchored out there, not the ones that are at the marinas. I really don't know too much about the marina and what goes on at the marinas, but as far as that are just sitting on a hook, basically is how they say it. I don't know how they're getting in and out of their boats. Some of them have dinghies on them. And I kayak all of the time. And it's like she was saying before, you're kayaking, people are screaming off the boats, come over here, you need a beer. It's like that kind of stuff going on. It's like, that's nothing that should be happening. And
that's right.
We used to have, we got the O'Galley High School. They bring their the row team down there, and you got guys standing there saying crude things to the women. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but I certainly have. And it's not acceptable. And they're just coming in. I think it's compounding. Like I said, in January there's 11, now there's 17, and they're not at the marinas. They're just in the harbor.
Okay.
So. That's all.
Very good, thank you. Bo Platt, are you here for the boats? Okay. All right, Martha Mayer. Good to see you, Martha.
My name is Martha Meyer.
Meyer, okay.
That's okay. I'll be the mayor for a few minutes. I just basically wanted to thank you all for bringing this.
Okay, bring the microphone closer. Yeah, there you go.
I want to thank you for bringing this to the city council, and it was my understanding that the ordinance 1418 had been rescinded, and I am here to ask that it be reinstated if that's the case. And
all right, Ms. Dolly, that, as far as I know, didn't get rescinded.
Again, I'm happy to have Suzanne Crockett come up and explain some of this, but I don't know that it would be well served without understanding how it all works together. A lot of things are regulated by state law, so there were changes made to our code at one point in order to reflect what the state law is. So anything that was removed, and I do remember there were portions that were rescinded. I don't remember exactly which ones. It was a number of years ago. But they were modified to reflect what the state law requires. And so
okay,
it's not a matter of just drafting a new ordinance to put it back in again.
Yeah.
We have to be compliant with whatever the state law is now. And it might be that state law needs to change, but that's a discussion we can have down the road. But first, I think there needs to be a comprehensive discussion of what the restrictions are, where the boundaries are on this particular issue.
But if they go out to that Muni code that's out there now, that's current, correct? If they go out there,
that's what our city code is. But some of what the police department is enforcing is state law, not necessarily just city code.
Okay.
And I think that for the most part, there are certain things that are a matter of enforcing city code. For example, the liveaboard issue is a city code issue because it's a zoning issue. So we can enforce state or city code with regard to liveaboards. Not necessarily the case for a boat that's anchored in the middle of the inlet or something like that. Then we are applying state law. And so it kind of depends on where it is. And when you're talking about whether somebody's living on it and whether it's creating a misdemeanor or not, you're talking about creating a sting operation for a boat. And so at some point, there's this,
okay,
review of resources.
Okay.
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 Okay, thank you. I see my time is up.
No,
Thank you.
No, I took some of your time. So
Oh, that's
do you
okay.
have anything else to add?
I really didn't, except thank you, and I hope you'll stay on it to our
I do too.
satisfaction of everyone. Thank you.
If the police wants me to help them with their sting, yes, I'll be out there. I'll be glad.
Sting.
All right, Martha Mayer.
She was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to put that. Stephanie Mayer. I thought there was another one. You're testing me, guys.
Hi, thank you for letting us come and talk about this because it is really important to a lot of people. I'm here on behalf of my brother and sister-in-law. We're all in the family. And if I can, my sister-in-law wanted me to read something since they couldn't be here tonight. And this is from Tony and Patrick Meyer. I live on the Ogallie River in one of the boathouses that extend over the river. I've seen boats come and go through the years. They anchor for a few days and go on their way. It was never a problem. But since Hurricane Matthew in 2016, the amount of sailboat and motorboats mooring in the Ogallie River have greatly increased. They came in before the storm and anchored in a protected bay, but after the storm they stayed. During the hurricane, we had to worry that any of the sailboats that were anchored could come untied and come straight towards our house, which added that much more stress during the storm. Then Hurricane Irma, more boats came and stayed. Since the hurricanes, the amount of boats has greatly increased. You can see between 12 to 17 boats on a daily basis. I've been looking at the same boats on the south side of my house for over a year now. They might move, but it's usually just a few feet. There are times that the winds change. let's see. Sorry. There are times that they move so close to my house that I can look right into their boat. We have to worry that when the winds change, their boat will hit our house. It's been very stressful. Why should I have to worry about a boat hitting my house? I pay taxes, insurance, flood insurance yearly, and they don't. There are several sailboats that are being lived aboard. They never take their boats to the marina, which means they must be dumping their waste into the water. Our water is polluted already. Now we have to deal with raw sewage. We've also been notified that 2 sex offenders are living on their boats. What would you do if this was something you had to see every day? My husband and I purchased a house on the river. When my husband and I purchased a house on the river, I never thought I would have to deal with boats right out my window living there permanently. I've never had a problem with boats coming in and staying for 72 hours and going on their way. It was never a problem. I wish you would consider reinstating this rule. The one we've been talking about, think about it if it was your view. Thank you for listening, Tony Meyer. And now I'm glad we have a better understanding of, and I can pass that along to them also. But, she sent me some pictures, and I don't know if you'll be able to see them from here, but this is right outside her window. I mean, and this man's looking into her home, and he is one that does not leave. So she doesn't know how he's getting food, what he's doing, but that's right outside their window. And there's more. She had pictures of the sewage that has floated up to their dock. So she just wanted me to be a voice for them since they couldn't be here tonight.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bo Platt.
Hi, I'm Bo Platt, and I live about 8 houses up the river from the first gentleman that spoke. So I really can't say anything that hadn't been said already by Amy and the others. But I just did want to echo that a lot of us are concerned. It's a health issue, it's a quality of life issue, it's a safety issue, and we really do thank you for the action you're taking. And as Amy said, if there's anything we can do, I'll be happy to join in. If any of y'all are interested in taking a close-up look, I've got several kayaks. I'll be happy to take you out there and show you just firsthand.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Platt. Okay, that's it for the boats. Next is Scott Ellis.
Thank you. Scott Ellis, 2348 Dorden Drive, O'Galley. I'm not here to talk about the boats. Here to talk about ongoing investigations in the police department. I'd like to lead off with a public records request. I would like the last 2 pay periods, time cards for all of Melbourne PD, from entry-level positions up to the chief. I'd like the last 2 pay periods of laptop check-in and check-out times with their GPS coordinates on police vehicles that are taken home. I had a little lecture from the police chief about public records, and that's fine, and I can do it any way that you all would like to do it. Since he's chosen not to answer my questions for the last 30 days, then I would simply believe the city manager, the city attorney, and the city council all concur that he has no need to answer the questions. He says it is inappropriate to continue the dialogue under a grievance process. I would like to ask the city attorney for an answer, not tonight. I'd like to know if these information is confidential now under a grievance process, just as if you would meet in an executive session. The questions I have asked have absolutely nothing to do with the grievances that have been filed. They are informational only. The investigation has had no control group. There's no way to verify this algorithm that you're using to run the investigation, and you have no idea if this one particular squad is an anomaly or if all squads look the same, because the best I can find, there has been nothing else looked at with the Melbourne PD. No questions impact this investigation at all.
Mr. Ellis, from what I understand, you got all the public records that you have requested, and I would like for you to have a meeting with the city manager and the police chief in private, or some kind of meeting during working hours.
Mayor, I'd also prefer all my answers be in writing. That way there's no dispute as to what was said at any meeting. I don't mind meeting, but I would like the answers in writing. so I don't get into a situation of that's not what I said or you did not understand what I said. I have brought copies, which I'll distribute when I'm done, for all of you. There's 10 copies, one for each council member, city attorney, city manager, and the city clerk of my unanswered questions today.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I would recommend city council members to meet with the city manager in private, because this shouldn't be discussed up here in the dais. This should be done with the city manager and the police chief. All right, thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Welcome.
Next will be Bonnie McDonald Pizzell. I hope I pronounced that right.
I had a code issue closed on May 30th by the code department.
Sorry?
I had a code compliance violation that was closed on May 30th, and then I was supposed to have a final opportunity ask to have the fines lowered below what code did, and I think I'm not at the right meeting, but my question may still be answerable by you. I put my house on the market and pulled it off because since May 30th, my code manager said that I should have the final meeting with the commissioners on Monday, June 10, and then there were 2 meetings canceled, which I understand is common in the summer, and then agendas were pushed because they were booked, naturally, because of canceled meetings. But my question is, how do I find out when my meeting is with the Board of Commissioners to ask them to drop my fine to 0, because I spent about $40,000 fixing, and I want them to see the investment and consider lowering it below
All right,
city
so,
costs.
okay, Ms. Dolly?
Madam Mayor,
Wrong place, wrong time,
the
right?
request for the rescission is submitted through the Code Enforcement Department, so Mark Harold would be the contact to submit the form, have it heard by the Code Board for a recommendation to City Council.
Okay, all right, there you go.
So I have to ask Mr. Harold, not my code case manager.
Yeah, Mr.
Is that true, Mrs. Dolly?
I'm sure that the code case manager could help you as well, but if you're not having
Right, no,
success,
no,
then you
Gary's
can talk to
been
the
lovely.
supervisor and talk with Mark Harold.
No, Gary's lovely, but they shifted jurisdictions, so I'll speak to
So
Mr.
you can
Harold.
talk to Mark Harold.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, very good. That is the last of the public comments, and I will close it. Now we'll go into item B, unfinished business. Item number 8, ordinance number 2018-21, and ordinance number 2018-22, the Hidden Harbor Estates. We'll read the ordinances together, but we'll vote separately.
Ordinance number 2018-21, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, making findings, amending Appendix D, Chapter 4, Section 4.04 of the City Code, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan by changing the future land use classification from low-density residential to office professional on 2.134 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of O'Galley Boulevard, west of Florida East Coast Railway and east of Mosswood Drive, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule. Ordinance number 2018-22, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by changing the zoning classification from RA residential holding to C1A professional offices and services district on 2.134 plus or minus acres of property, and from RA to R2, 1, 2, and multiple family dwelling medium density district on 8.953 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of O'Galley Boulevard, west of the Florida East Coast Railway and east of Mosswood Drive, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development, Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, staff doesn't have anything further to add on second reading.
All right, any questions for Ms. Dittmer? Seeing none. This is quasi judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I do have some sign-up sheets. First is Harry Marie. Oh, Bruce Moa. You want to be first because you're the
Yes,
applicant.
yes.
All
Hi,
right.
good evening, Bruce Moya.
All right, Mr. I'm sorry,
Yes,
Mr. Moya.
yes, representing the applicant for the Hidden Harbors project. I know we've had extensive conversations and presentations on this project at the first reading. I'm not sure if there's any cards to speak in objection. I think we've done a really good job in meeting with the neighbors and solving any issues that we thought were solvable. Bringing in improving the road, keeping the density low, and all those other things doing the traffic study. So I'm really here to answer any questions. I don't want to, go and repeat everything that's already been discussed. So if you do have any questions, I'm here. And if there's anything that comes up later, I'd like to come back and be able to rebut that. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Moya? All right, thank you, Mr. Moya. Next, I have Harry Mururi.
Harry, say it for us.
Mayor Pori.
Come on, Harry.
Okay.
That was very close, though. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to basically just address Bruce's comments. We've spent a lot of time and effort to make this a viable project, not only from a private, but from a public standpoint. We know there's definitely a need in the marketplace for residential housing, in addition to the other projects that we're working on. So we're excited about this opportunity and certainly looking forward to being a part of the community and the greater good of what's happening here in Melbourne. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Michael Grayson.
Hi, Mike Grayson, Melbourne, Florida. I think I'm going past 2 and just, if you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. And Kyle Militano, I think it's.
Militano.
Second one's better.
Okay. Militano. Okay.
As you guys know, we were here last month and pretty much explained the project real well. So I won't get into repeating everything, but I just want to remind you guys what this is. I'm Kyle Militano, by the way, in Indian Harbor Beach. And I own Militano Construction. Mm-hmm. We do mostly high-end homes and high-end projects, and that's precisely what this is going to be. It's not going to be your typical track home builder, pop it up and go. And it's a high-end, classy, custom townhouses, custom homes, etc. So again, I don't want to repeat everything we said last week. Definitely here for any questions. If you need them, let me know.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure on item A?
Mayor?
Ms. Thomas.
Move for approval of ordinance number 2018-21 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-21 by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
Yes, I thought we were going to have a report on the sewer backup and update on that.
Yes, it's in the package.
I don't recall seeing it.
I saw it was,
But still, I think our residents should know the update on this and what's being done.
it was under, it was the Hidden Harbor Sewer Report. So page 56.
Okay, but I think our residents should know an update on that report. I mean, it's given to us, but I think they should know also what's going on and what it's expected and why they're experiencing that issue.
Okay, Mr. Reigelsberger.
Thank you, Mayor. Ralph Reigelsberger, Public Works and Utilities Director. Just to summarize briefly in regards to the report, the investigation that I conducted in regards to the complaints and concerns, a number of them, one of them being the power at the lift station 23 where these areas would drain into. That lift station has been completely rebuilt, and pulling records for the last 3 years, we have not had a power glitch in regards to being able to, for those pumps to be running, so that's not been an issue. The depth of it in regards to the sanitary flow is an issue in regards to, as included in my report, is the elevation of their lowest fixtures of those homes is very close in proximity to the gravity sewer that collects their wastewater. And anytime there's a potential surcharge of that, in which we do still receive infiltration and inflow into the system, that is what they're experiencing in regards to backups into their homes. My staff, pulling the records for the last 9 years, have worked with 3 residents on the subdivision to the east in regards to installing backwater valves in regards to preventing, kind of like a check valve, so water can only flow one way and not back into the homes. This seems to be, nothing is 100% foolproof in that regard, and so we're looking at other means in regards to what can be done better. A meeting with the engineer's office tomorrow and with another vendor in regards to a possible solution to assist some of those people that are still experiencing problems, but that's currently where we are with the situation right now.
So they have been contacted that there is an alternate, a way that they can resolve this issue then?
Well, there's not a 100% foolproof solution for anything when we have high intensity rain events such as hurricanes and some of the significant rainfalls that we have. But we can always improve the situation that's out there. So we're looking at alternatives at this point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ralph. Any other? Yes, Ms. Moore.
Ralph, as I understand it, those houses had been built in a lower elevation also. So
yeah, that's what the problem is. It's in regards to a lot of those floors have basements that open up to the back.
Yeah.
And those elevations are so low in regards to the collection system. Anytime there's surcharge, it doesn't take much in regards to having that go back. I will also add the regulations that were in place back in those days didn't have the requirements that we do now in regards to that separation and functionality of it. So any new development will have tighter requirements and will have little impact to this situation, if any at all. But what they're experiencing is a historical problem that hasn't been addressed completely at this point in time.
I thank you for addressing this and for us as a city taking some steps to give them some relief on this. I don't think, from what I've seen, it's the new, I'm going to call it the new project that is creating this issue. I think this has been a long-standing issue from what I was able to gather on this.
And that's absolutely correct. After going out and investigating with my crews, a number of those homes have eliminated their plumbing at the lower levels, blocked them off so that they're just working off the first floor elevations, which has that adequate difference, so their homes aren't flooding anymore.
Okay, well, I thank you because I brought it to your attention and I asked you to please go out and check this.
Yeah, it was kind of sketchy there to start because some people were saying the wastewater plant is running out of power, and I said, well, that has no effect to it whatsoever. The lift station 23, which I think was mentioned to you before, that's our biggest lift station in our collection system.
Right.
Has not had power issues. It is very deep, and it does have some surcharging capabilities when there's a high infiltration and inflow. High alarms have only occurred during the hurricanes and I think one of the rain events. So it's just a matter of the water backing up.
Oh, thank you. But again, thank you for going out and making this effort.
Okay, thank you.
And looking for a solution.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else?
Yeah,
All right.
real quick.
Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, the last thing, I just want to thank, besides you doing that, it was good work. We can resolve this. I also want to thank Bruce and the staff there. I know we kind of, as a council, picked that project apart, and you guys have really bent over backwards for the residents, and we appreciate it. And I'm aware, my family's been in construction nearly 50 years in Brevard, and I don't know Mr. Melitano, but I can tell you he does put some good stuff, and he has a great reputation. So I'm looking forward to seeing this built and moving forward. But thank all of you because this is great work. This is what we're supposed to do, and I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yeah,
I also
Ms.
want
Lopez.
to, yes, I support this project completely. And I'm glad that Ralph did do that research for us. It makes the residents feel that they can now support this development. So that's good. And also, we do have a housing shortage. So this is really needed for newcomers to this area.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
All right, so I have a motion by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Alfrey, and closing the discussion. This is second reading, going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 8B, Council, what is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
I recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-22 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Thomas, approval of ordinance number 2018-22, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, this is going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right, congratulations. It's a great project. Item number 9, ordinance number 2018-28, the Living Room Art Gallery and Wine Bar. Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, ma'am. An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow the consumption of alcohol, beer, and wine on the premises as an accessory to an art gallery in a 2,624 plus or minus square foot unit of an overall 0.14 plus or minus acre developed site zone C3, Central Business District, located on the west side of Melbourne Court, east of Vernon Place, and north of Melbourne Avenue. 2018 Melbourne Court, Unit 101, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional use granted herein may be revoked by City Council if the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CC3, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is Community Development. Ms. Cindy Ditmer.
Yes, staff did not have anything further to add on second reading.
All right, any questions for Ms. Ditmer? Seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures?
No, ma'am.
Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-28 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-28 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, this is going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 10 is ordinance number 2018-29. Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to trespass, making findings, amending Chapter 40, offenses of the City Code, creating sections 40-5 and 40-6, making it illegal to trespass on private property and on city property after oral, written, or posted warning, providing for procedures for appeal of trespass warnings issued for trespass on city property, providing for severability and interpretation, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Ditmer. No.
I don't believe this is
sorry, this
community
is City
development's
Attorney.
item.
This is City Attorney.
City Attorney, I have
All
Suzanne
right.
Crockett is coming up here. It's in conjunction with the Police Department
Okay.
and the Parks Department.
Yes, Suzanne Crockett, Assistant City Attorney. We have nothing further to add.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? Yes, I do. Mark Herendeen. All right. Mr. Herendeen.
I wanted to add that our company does have property in the area, have an apartment building, and this ordinance is going to directly address the decorative issues that go on in the area, especially some of the side streets. We've had a lot of issues, and this is going to go a long way to keep the quality of life healthy and keep folks in check who aren't keeping themselves in check.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Herendeen. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
approval of ordinance number 2018-29.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-29 by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion?
Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I'm guessing that maybe along with this going into place, that our police officers are probably in the park area more and helping to move along some of our homeless people out of the park. And I just wanted to bring up staff that I have noticed on Babcock Street, or just west of Babcock Street on Fee Avenue near the 7-Eleven in Holy Trinity. It seems like they're now being pushed west. And that whole area there in that area is really getting bad, and people are being approached, and it makes me very nervous. That's a lower school there, so it's from preschool to 6th grade, and it's getting pretty bad in that area. So I just want to put that out there and make sure that as we're moving them along, that we make sure to keep that area in mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 11 is we're going to discuss the city manager's performance evaluation. And let me pass out the salary data from both the city attorney and city manager. All right, so copies. Yep, send them down. And we also, now there's 2 copies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we got city manager and city attorney.
Okay, we need
I'll
one more
just-
city manager down this way.
One more. Do you have enough?
That's city manager and city attorney.
Does every,
I need a
You only got
City
one.
manager
Which one did you get?
I need a city attorney.
I have
city
only
attorney.
one.
Okay.
I need the city manager.
You don't have that there? You have 2.
No.
All
You
right.
have-
They're
I
sets
don't.
of 2.
Yeah, okay. Here, Tim.
And,
One of
okay.
each.
I do not
Now,
have
what
one
do
of
you
each.
need?
And
City manager.
I need city attorney.
City attorney, here we go. Who needs the city manager?
Down here.
Down here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I just hand them out there too. Also, Mr. Alfrey has, we had a copy tonight. That was delivered. So after having, reviewing the performance, is there any discussion? If not,
Well, Mayor.
yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
What are we trying to do here? I'm seeing salary data.
Yes.
What are we trying to do this?
I feel like Mr. McNeese has been here over 5 years, and I feel he deserves a raise. And based on the evaluations, I think it's in order. So I need some kind of percent. Now, you'll notice if you look at the city manager, page 3, actually page 4, it's highlighted. On an average in the state of Florida, on what a city manager should make, $197,537. And right now, Mr. McNeese is at $186,682.
Are you aware we're going to be asking the taxpayers for $30 million on a police department?
Yes,
I
I'm
don't-
aware. But that shouldn't, we could do based on a percent, 3%, 4%.
I mean, I cannot support this whatsoever. I think, I've actually on my, what I've given, I've give him meets expectations. There's some things I would like him to look at and address, and I will tell you now, $186,000 for city manager is good money. I appreciate the work that he's doing, but I don't see how we go back to the taxpayers and ask for a new police department and other funding, stuff that we need, and give the city manager a raise. Nothing against either one of them, but that's that's excessive, very excessive.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I don't know whether I have the wrong information or not, but when I was first elected, they gave out the city manager's contract of employment. And you're saying that he never received an increase, and yet I saw that he was hired at 165. So I see 186 here. So
Okay.
do I have the wrong information, maybe?
Mr. McNeese, is this,
The contract.
Are you looking at the right one?
It says here Melbourne, 186 the salary,
That's what he's making today.
but
So
then,
is that,
am I mistaken? That contract stated 165. I looked at it today, so I can get an idea of what, how to approach this. So if he hasn't received an increase and yet this is 186, something is wrong there, I'm sorry.
Mayor?
yeah, Ms. Moore?
This is the first evaluation that we have done, if I'm not mistaken, since Mr. McNeese was hired. Do I stand corrected on that? This is the first
Yes,
one.
this
Thank
is
you.
the first one.
We just slipped up. We should have been doing these yearly or every other year, and this just got away from us. So to answer your question,
I don't know. I
Councilman
saw the
Lopez,
contract, that's all I'm asking.
That
Getting
this is the first
misinformation.
time that we're doing an evaluation.
Which I understand that.
Okay.
I just want an answer for that,
Yes.
what
we-
I saw today.
Okay, Mr. McNeese?
Thank you, Mayor. My contract calls for me to receive whatever across the board increase the general employees receive as approved by the city council every year, and whatever else council decides to do from time to time, I think is what.
Okay, so you have been receiving increases?
Yes,
then.
I've
Okay,
received
I just want to
the
make sure
same
that
across the boards as other general employees.
Okay.
And Mayor?
Right, Mr. Alfrey?
And then roughly, we'll say our employees get a 3% raise.
Yeah.
I say a 3% raise on $170,000 is a lot more. That's probably about $5,500 raise right off the bat than someone making $40,000 a year. That, to me, his raise has been, his pay has gone up substantially on a standard 2 or 3% increase, and to say, hey, we're going to do an evaluation for the first time in 6 years so we can give him a raise, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
What number are you looking at, Mr. Alfrey?
It's 186.
Well, no, if he gets 3% across
Right.
the board,
Yeah.
if he's making $160,000, I mean, I'll do the rough math, you're looking at probably a $5,500 raise. Where a standard employee is going to get 3% of 4, that's, 100, a couple $100. So what you're doing is essentially taking the scale, and a regular employee gets a small raise, where the city manager is getting a larger raise because he's got a higher salary.
Right.
I can respect that, but to just throw another raise in when we're going in front of the taxpayers that ask for a tax increase is crazy. Not to mention, this is salary plus benefits. Am I right? I mean, this is benefits. This is medical. This is vacation. This is sick.
Is this
is crazy.
included, this number here is benefits, or is this just salary, right?
Base
Mr.
salary,
McNeese, that's what I understood it. All right, it's salary.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And Mayor,
Okay, I think Mr. Thomas was next, and then Ms. Lopez.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm not going to be able to support this either. And I haven't turned in my evaluation yet. I'm going to turn it in Monday. I think I'd like to see some improvement in some areas. And so I think what we ought to do is look at trends and see how they both do on this evaluation, and then see the improvement that they make after the second one, and then decide whether or not we give them a raise. But to give them a raise right now, I can't support that. And again, Mr. Alfrey brought up a good point with us going to the taxpayers in November to ask for $35 million for a new police station. And, we need to show the ability to belly up to the bar and tighten up our belts as well. And the timing of this is terrible. So again, I think we look at this evaluation, see how they do, look at the next evaluation, they show improvement, then we can, I think, discuss a raise.
Okay. Any other discussion? Oh, yeah, Ms. Lopez, I'm sorry.
okay, I don't know whether Mr. Alfrey thinks that we're going prorated the increase. In other words, going back to the beginning of 5 years?
No.
I don't think we're doing that.
No,
Is that correct?
No, I never
So-
said that.
Right, so I can't see why we can't do, at least a 3%, a little higher than
he's
what
getting it already.
currently.
He gets it every
Oh,
year
he
with the
does?
general
Oh, he
employees. He
does?
gets a
Okay,
raise. So we're
that's
throwing
right.
another raise on top of a raise.
Okay, I see.
I mean he gets a 3% raise again at a salary of $180 now. His 3% raise will be about $5,500 just right off the bat.
Yeah, if it's 3%, like I would like to
So it'd
recommend,
be
it
a
would
di-
be $5,600.
So he's looking for an additional.
Yeah, additional.
Other
Yes.
than, okay.
And that would bring it up to 192,282.
192, okay.
46.
I understand where he's coming from.
Right. Okay, Ms. Thomas.
Mayor, I think what we're getting confused here is, yes, our employees, they get a 3%, and everybody across the board, including us and council here, get a 3% raise across the board when that happens. However, this is our city manager. Our city manager has worked very hard for us. He's done a terrific job. He's done an excellent job. He's got great experience, and he needs to be rewarded properly by us as council to be able to make sure that we ensure that he sticks with us and he stays with us, and he's done a terrific job, a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned as our city manager. And this isn't anything unusual. This is the way it's done across towns, across cities, across counties. And unfortunately, I think what we're forgetting here is we have not given him a raise in 5 years. We're not talking this is just last year, and now we're thinking about giving him another raise. We haven't given him a raise in 5 years. I think that it is important that we do so, and I would support 3%.
Okay.
Mayor?
All right. Mr. Alfrey.
How are we not giving him a raise when he gets a raise with all the other employees?
Well, I think the meaning that I'm saying on that is if you go and you historically go look at all the other cities and all the other counties and everything else, they are also getting their COLA raise along, and then they also get evaluated and get their raise on top of that. And that's the way it is typically done, and that is the way that managers usually.
But they're not going to the voters and asking for $30 million for a police department, or
And like I said, had this been a year ago that we had just given a raise, I would totally agree with that. But we haven't given him one raise since he's been hired here.
He's getting a 3% raise every year.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to, if enough discussion, I'd like to call the question.
Wait a minute.
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
At the beginning, I was planning to give him an increase. I did not know that he was getting a raise every year, and that he's up to 186 right now.
Right.
So I happen to agree with Paul Alfrey, especially if we don't know where the homestead voting is going to be, as well as the police station. So I think maybe we can leave it for one more year and see where it goes with that voting issue with the homestead allowance, and then decide then.
Okay. Vice Mayor Minus?
Mayor, for 5 years, our city manager hasn't gotten a raise. And from the reviews I've seen, he's done either exceptional or outstanding. And if I was on a job for 5 years and I didn't get a raise, the headhunters wouldn't look for me, I'd be looking for them. And with the experience, the expertise he's had, and we almost had him walking on water during after Hurricane Irma, where he did such a great job, the decisions and all that he made, and he came back and gave us a report. I totally support the 5,600, and I'm just embarrassed that he hasn't had a raise in 5 years. Yeah, that's everybody gets a raise, whether you deserve it or not. I mean, the 3%, whether you deserve it or not. But to reward someone for doing exceptional or outstanding in some areas, I think he should be rewarded.
Okay. Ms. Moore, did you want to make?
We're calling the question, so I would be glad to make a motion.
I don't have a motion, but.
I'll make a motion.
Hold on. Mr. McNeese.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to clarify a couple things, then I feel like I should make a couple comments. First of all, yes, I have received, and I can't tell you exactly how many of those 5 years, but I think 3, maybe 4 of them, general employees got either a 2 or 2.5% across the board. I have received those. So
like we all
it would
did.
be not fair to say that I have gotten no raises. And one of the most important things I want to say is, if my arithmetic is correct, I took my first job 49 years ago, painting apartments and mowing lawns in the summertime. And in those 49 years, I have never absent the time when I negotiated a starting salary, never asked an employer for money. Not one single time over 49 years. And I want to make it clear, I did not ask for it tonight.
No, you didn't.
Mayor Meehan asked me to
Yes.
provide salary information, and I did so. Now, that said, my friend, the city attorney, reminds me that you only have rare opportunities to speak up for yourself or to represent your own interests, and I'm going to do that now. You compensate people essentially based on three things: the level of responsibility they have, the experience they have, and the things you watch out for are equity among your employees to see that people who have equivalent responsibilities are paid equitably. And you look at marketplace information to make sure that you're paying your employees a fair salary based on the market so that you're competitive and you're keeping them. When I was asked to do salary research for purposes of this conversation, I was frankly surprised by what I found in the market, not only in the state of Florida, but in the United States. In the time since I've been in this job, that market has shifted considerably for jobs like mine. And I think the data is in front of you. You'll recall that we are in the process of doing a market-based compensation study for all of your city employees across the board, including the airport, and that we have money in the budget this year and next year, once you approve next year's budget, if it stays in there, once that study is completed, to make the adjustments that we need to make for those employees that have marketplace discrepancies, which I have to say, you've got one with me, where I've kind of fallen behind the market, and it is a competitive market out there for guys who do what I do. The other thing, and I hate to bring this out kind of in this context, but you have the highest paid city employee, and it's not me. It's the executive director of your airport, and a gentleman whose scope of his responsibilities is just about 10% what mine is in terms of budget authority and budget responsibility, and number of employees that I'm responsible for, the scope of activities from the police department. The utilities department alone is bigger than the airport. And so you've got an equity problem there, where you've got an employee that's essentially at the level of a department head who makes more money than your city manager. And I frankly object to that. And it's disrespectful to me. And if you can fix that or not fix that, that's entirely at your discretion. But I think based on the market and the data that we found, and I'll tell you, it frankly surprised me to see where the market was, based on equity with your own internal employees and what they're getting paid, and based on my performance, which until tonight, I had never seen some of the negative things that I've seen in this evaluation. I got at 545. I'll be happy to address those. I haven't had an opportunity to yet, but I think my performance speaks for itself. And I just ask you to do what's fair.
Okay, and that's true. Mr. McNeish, you did bring it up. The executive director of the airport has set the bar. He really has. That so, and I was one of that approved that raise with the executive director.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor Minus.
Is it public record to ask
Yes, it is
how much
public
is
record.
the director? What is his salary?
It's on here, I think.
It's on here.
It's on here. The last item.
Last item, yeah.
Oh, here we go, 190,000.
Oh,
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I have to say that I agree with McNeese. I think that at least we should match what the airport director is getting, at least.
Well, here's what I would like to do is, if we do the 3% raise, that would bring up his salary to $192,282.46. But if you look on the last page, on an average city manager, it's 197,537, which means, so what do we want to do?
Mayor, I'd like to make
Yeah.
a motion.
Ms. Moore.
I would like to make a motion that the city manager's salary in 2018 be at a 3% increase, which would bring it to $192,282.46.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Moore, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion.
Mayor,
Understand that the number is up to 192,282.46, right?
right.
Okay. Further discussion?
So that increase, it's like $6,000 basically.
Well,
About
5,600.
$5,600.
It's 600.
Yeah. I think it's great. I mean, Mr. McNeese has done an outstanding job for our city. He hasn't had a raise in 5 years. And as far as, yes, we have some challenges in our budget, that should not reflect what we're going to do for him today.
Would that also include the 2.5 that he should be getting this year because of the employees?
Yes, he will
contract?
be getting that, just like all of us are for general employees.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah. Mr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just saying, this is the first report that he has received in the 4 or 5 years that he's been there, correct?
Correct.
So I'm saying, use this year as a benchmark, look at his evaluation, let's see how he does next year. And then if we want to address this then and give him a raise, we do it next year, even after we have the election and the referendum to try to get the the money for the police station. This is not the time to be doing this.
Mayor.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
I totally support the 3% raise, and also I would like to bring this back, I don't know, a year,
Okay.
2 years, to look at this, because I think that we still are very below what the average is for the size city that we are, and we might in a year from now, depending on how things go, want to increase that.
I'll agree with that. I think we need to review this in a year.
I agree.
Bring it back.
I think we need to
Yeah.
get back on schedule, on target,
Yeah.
if you will.
I would like there's a motion on the floor, it has been seconded.
Okay.
I would like a
Discussion.
voice-
There's discussion.
I would like a vote, voice count.
All right,
on
so,
this.
Ms. Moore, you'll need a second if you want to go
have
ahead
a
and call the
second.
question.
I did.
Did you second it?
Yes,
Okay.
I have a
All right,
second on the
so it's
floor.
been called. So those in favor, say aye.
Aye. But I think it should be a
A roll call? All
vote.
right, let's do a roll call. Ms. Weiser.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Nay.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Nay.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. So congratulations, Mr. McNeish, you've done an awesome job. And any comments?
Well, I want to say thank you for the consideration. I said there's one detail you probably need to address, which would be effective on what date? Do you want this to?
Okay.
You mentioned 2018, that would be January 1st. I don't know if that's your intention, though.
No, it's,
So we need to process it in some
okay.
way.
No, it wouldn't be, I would say
Effective.
August 1st.
First pay period?
Okay, the next pay period.
Next
So
pay
what's
period.
that?
I'm not sure, but
I
in
think payroll
August.
closes this week, so it'd probably be 2 weeks. So it'd be, at the end of a pay period is probably this Friday.
This Friday? Okay.
Start
do you need a
August
motion
then?
for that?
Just if you have a consensus,
When it
I
needs
just
to
don't want to
start?
do it, run afoul of.
So the next pay period.
The next pay period. I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, any other objection? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right, item 12 is the city attorney's evaluation.
That was so much fun that I thought it would be really great to piggyback on that.
Okay.
I do want to point out a couple of different issues. City attorneys, there's many city attorneys that aren't in-house, and so as outside counsel, they're paid on a completely different measure because you're usually paying for their overhead, and they have some very creative deals that they have negotiated. So sometimes they have a flat number of hours, and then anything above that is at a particular rate. And if it's litigation, it's a higher rate. It just depends. So you'll see that in the survey that was provided to you. There's two different pages. The first one takes those cities that are involved in the comp and class study and identifies what those cities pay. But you'll see that some of them say outside counsel. And the numbers, for example, Delray Beach, you can't even compare. It's like $500,000. But remember, it's about overhead and multiple attorneys working on a particular thing. So I didn't even bother giving you those numbers because it would just skew anything. So I left out anything that's outside counsel. And at the airport, they have outside counsel for the airport attorney. So that's why he's not an employee. So I didn't put a salary there. And then, as you might know, Palm Bay recently hired a new city attorney, Patricia Smith, and she was kind enough to share with me a salary survey that they maintain in their own department. And so this is more local, and it describes what the different cities do for their city attorneys. On the second page of that, there's one correction I do want to point out. I don't think it was in the draft that Mayor Meehan passed out, but Brevard County, I did talk. They also they recently hired a new county attorney, Eden Bentley, and in here, for whatever reason, Palm Bay had listed her salary at $189, higher than Scott Knox when he left, but that's not the case. She said she receives the same salary Scott Knox had when he left, so she's at $180,952. So I just want to give that for a frame of reference. Just overall, I would say that I feel very fortunate to have the job that I have. I like my job. I describe to Councilmember Lopez, it's really fun in a nerdy kind of way. And it's a privilege to work here. I also believe that it's awkward to be in a public meeting and talking about my salary, but the reality is I'm here tonight as an advocate for my own family, and so I would just ask that I be paid a fair wage that's competitive with the market, and so that's why I've provided the salary information. As far as the evaluations went, I thank all of you for putting the time in to go through it. I work very hard for you guys, and I think I had very favorable reviews. One comment that did come up a couple different times, and sometimes it was written and sometimes it was just verbal, was concern about favoritism. And I just want you to all know that sometimes one person's saying I favor another person, but the reality is that same person thinks I favor the first person. And so I think that means I'm doing a pretty good job because everybody feels like I'm giving special attention to everybody else. But I want to assure you that it's difficult to prove to you that I treat you all similarly. But I think with experience and time, you'll come to trust that, and that's only going to happen over time. So, and I appreciate all the constructive criticism you all have.
Mayor?
All right, thank you. Ms. Moore.
I think we're very fortunate that we have an in-house attorney as qualified as Mrs. Dowley. When we have to go to the outside, you just need to look at what the charges are per hour and basically what it cost us. So again, I am looking that I would like to see a 3% increase for Mrs. Dowley. I haven't figured it up on math-wise.
I did.
You? And what does it come to, Mayor?
It's 3%, $4,967.13.
Right.
Now that would bring it up to $170,538.13.
Okay.
Mayor, I got a question.
Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
And does the city attorney, I assume, gets a percentage raise every year with the general employee? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I will say that I can vouch for Miss Dolly always being with a pen in her hand. I will say that, but under the circumstances, it's not that she doesn't deserve it, but I know we're going to have about $1.2 million because of Amendment 1 likely will come down the pike, I think, with the police department. And then even the derelict boats, if you don't think it's going to cost the city to remove some of these derelict boats, what are we going to do? We don't have the money to remove derelict boats now?
Mr. Alfrey, that comes under fine. So we've been taking out the boats based on that money from fine. So,
Okay.
all right, so.
I'm just saying in
Okay,
general.
all right.
I'm just saying in general. And it costs money. And again, this is not a dig against Miss Dolly. But I think with the 3% she's getting with the general employees, and I know there was a comment brought up a little bit ago that we're doing the assessment to figure out where everybody belongs. And I think we all voted unanimously to get that done so
Yes.
all the employees are compensated correctly. But I almost think that's kind of a slap in the face to our regular employees to go, before we're done with the assessment, we're just going to give the, our administrators a raise. If it comes down to pike with the assessment, that's definitely on the table for me, but not right now. I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thomas.
Also, I think the last city council meeting, we talked about trying to win the hearts and minds of the voters as we go to them and ask for this $35 million for the new police station. This does not help, because again, it looks like we're not tightening our belts. We're adding to the fat, and I just think the timing's poor, and so that's all I have to say.
Well, Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
it costs money to run a city, and we get what we pay for. And we want quality in both our city manager, and we want quality in our city attorney, and we have it in both, and I think it's very important that we maintain this. We've had to scrounge for money before, and we can do it again. And I'm sorry, but I'm in favor of adding that 3% to Allison Dolly, our city attorney's salary.
All right, you want to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we increase our city attorney, Allison Dolly's salary by an additional 3%, which I believe takes it up to $170,538.13. Am I correct? in
Yes.
that? Okay.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Ms. Moore to increase the salary to $170,538.13. Second by Ms. Thomas.
Roll call vote, please.
And discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
How long has Ms. Dorsey been with us, Dolly? How long?
Dolly?
Allison, yes. How long she's been with us?
I started with the city in 2007, and I was appointed city attorney in December of 2014.
2014.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's time. Okay, that's all. I just wanted that information.
Okay, and Vice Mayor Minus?
Mayor, I'd like to also ask, will this be, it start the same as the next pay period
Yes.
as well?
Yes, it
Okay,
will start the
so-
next pay period.
That's my thought.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second, and I'll need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Nay.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Nay.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. Congratulations, Ms.
Thank
Dolly.
you.
Thank you, you've done an awesome job.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Mayor, I have to make a comment.
Yeah, Ms.
This
Moore.
is not an easy thing for these two people to sit up here
Right.
and listen to our comments. And so I commend you for doing this. That's really putting you in the hot seat.
Yes, yes, but it is, it is what it is. You have to make it transparent, so,
Exactly.
yeah.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
I gave them the 3% because they deserve it. They're very, very qualified. But I am definitely have the same worry about the revenues coming in, especially the homestead situation, and of course the police. So we may have to look at next year and think very hard about doing it again because of that. So
Well,
let's see where it goes, and hopefully we won't have to address it again, only increases, and not have to worry about whether or not those items pass or not.
Okay,
May
yeah,
I-
we'll look at that a year from now. And
May
then
I
go through
comment?
these
May I
evaluations.
comment on that?
Yes, Ms. Moore.
I agree with you, Councilman Lopez, on that. This does not have to be a yearly thing.
Right.
And I think we will then look at where we are next year and do an evaluation, but it doesn't mean we have to do
Yes,
an increase in salary over and above the 3%.
I got Mr. McNeese, his hand, and then Mr. Alfrey.
Mayor, I just want to say, I didn't want to say this before, but I look forward to briefing each of you in the next couple of weeks on the budget prospects for fiscal 2019, because for the first time since I've been here in Melbourne, things are a little brighter in terms of state revenues in particular. Your growth and valuations has been helpful this time, and so we actually, for the first time it'd be my 6th budget here, kind of feel like we have a little bit of room to breathe when we bring you a budget to look at. So I'm real happy to be able to tell you that and give you a little bit of a heads up that that's kind of, I didn't want to say that before, to act like we had lots of money and you should give it to me. Secondly, I'll say on behalf of, I think, Ms. Dell and I both, if we were looking for easy jobs, we wouldn't be sitting in these chairs in the first place.
Yeah, amen.
Would we?
Yeah.
Well, Mayor,
That's right. Oh, Mr. Alfrey, I'm sorry.
real quick, how long are we looking before this employee compensation is done, till that is all done? Do we even know?
Yeah.
I know we're in the back and forth phase of them gathering more information on our job descriptions. They've done, I think, most of their market research already and are in the process of building the tables and slotting everybody where they should be. Our objective is to have all of that information available, ready to be adopted and implemented by the beginning of the fiscal year. So that gives us some time to get that done. So we'll be getting, I would think, feedback from them relatively soon over the course of the next month or so, and start to see what that puzzle looks like. But I haven't gotten any preliminary information. They're in the back and forth process with staff right now. But by the first of the fiscal year, we hope to have everything implemented.
Because hopefully we can get this done, because I can tell you with my employees, I take care of my employees. My employees are what run my businesses, and I think if we don't get that done soon, this just isn't going to look right. And looking at this again, it's just, I think it's just bad timing in general. But again, that's just my opinion. But I thank both of you for your service. Okay?
All right, thank you. All right, we'll go into new business, item C. This will be item C13. This is a work order, is for striping and pavement markings for Babcock Street from US 192 to the Florida East Coast Railroad right-of-way. Miss Jenny Lamb.
We're back about Babcock Street again. The next 3 items are Babcock Street.
Yes, I was real excited.
I do want to point out with this work order, not only is it for the pavement markings, both temporary and final pavement markings for the section that is going to be reconstructed, it is also for the segment between 192 and Hibiscus. As we evaluated the road before it is transferred to us, we discovered that the pavement markings were not up to standard. It looks like they just applied paint and they did not put what we call thermoplastic down. And even if it was thermoplastic, it maybe was not a high-grade thermoplastic because it is just appearing as paint right now. So it is time to restripe that segment. And so what better time to do it so that the striping from 192 all the way up to the railroad tracks will be done at once, and then that section is brought up to current standard. So this work order includes installing the temporary and final pavement markings on the section that is going to be reconstructed, or that we're doing the full depth reclamation on, and it includes the segment between 192 and Hibiscus to put the proper pavement markings in that. So our engineering requests approval of work order to Fosnite Stripe and Line Incorporated of Longwood, Florida, in the amount of $98,024.50.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, seeing none, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Oh, go ahead. All right. You guys did it.
3 and 4, go ahead. Or 3 and 4.
Move for approval of the work order to Fosnight Stripe and Line Inc., Longwood, Florida, in the amount of $98,024.50.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of item number C13 by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Good job. Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 14 is work order 3 to the Pavement Management Alternative Methods Services Contract with Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc. for the Babcock Street Reconstruction Project. Ms. Jenny Lamb.
This work order is for the actual reconstruction of that segment of road between Hibiscus and the railroad tracks. It is the full depth reclamation that we are doing. And I know we've discussed that in the past. We're doing that on some other city roads. And this is aside from the water main replacement that's going on in the road, this is the biggest ticket item that is part of the project. You didn't ask, but I will let you know the timing of the project. I believe we're still on track to transfer the jurisdiction of the road on August 1st. We're starting with the pipelining and the water, or the pipelining first. We can start that beforehand. We also need to, this next agenda item, we need to do some work to the inlets and then put the water line in. And so we are creating a schedule right now, and the exact timing of when everything happens. As you see, you've had to approve several components. We're making sure that there are no gaps in between and everything falls right in line, so we're not sitting around and waiting for anything. So we're on track that as soon as we take over jurisdiction, you will start seeing us tear up the road as in new construction.
Okay, so you're saying August 1st.
Is
how
when
long is that going to take?
Well, the water line work alone is
Yes.
probably 4 to 6 weeks. And then the reconstruction work, we have, I believe, let me double check that. I don't want to say it without double checking. We have 30 days in there, and that's for the actual reconstruction. We think it's going to take less time than that. And then we have the striping work and the associated components that go along with it.
All right, so I understand school starts August 10th.
Yes.
So we're not going.
We're not going to make it. We'll be doing water line work as school starts.
Okay. And then Melbourne High School is aware.
We haven't worked with them yet, but as soon as we have a set schedule on what we're doing or an idea of a schedule, we will go to them. If they need us to shift one way or another, we will work with them on that.
Okay, very good.
Mayor.
Yeah.
So
Ms.
if I'm
Thomas.
looking at this right, we're looking at October complete time?
That's what I'm hoping for at the absolute latest, October. So I'm looking for maybe start the reconstruction part sometime before mid-September, and then by mid-October, everything will be nice and smooth.
Thank you.
Gosh.
Doesn't that sound good?
Staff recommends approval of work order number 3 in the amount of $767,888.34.
Provided it doesn't rain, too. So all right. So no, we need to do some happy.
No hurricanes.
Yeah. How could we forget that?
Oh, my.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Wait a minute.
We didn't make a motion.
You're right, Mayor. We didn't have a motion.
We need those two to fight it out again this
Yeah, I
time.
do.
That's right.
I got it.
The motion was with Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus.
No.
Nobody made the motion yet. Let her make the motion.
All right, Vice Mayor Minus.
Thank you. Mayor, I move for approval of work order number 3 to the contract with Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc. for the Babcock Street Reconstruction Project number 14118 in the amount of $767,888.34, contingent upon the property transfer of the road right-of-way.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C14 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas, and I know Mr. Thomas' voice back there. And further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I would like to say thank you to Babcock Street CRA for giving us a lot of these funds, or this would not have happened.
Yeah, it
So, John, thank you very much for your leadership for that CRA.
Yeah, it was a partnership. It really was.
It's a true partnership.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sorry it took all your money.
I know. And we shortened the time frame. No, we added.
We added.
Yeah, we added. Okay,
gave you
but
an
of course, it
extension.
went all to the roads. Item C15, change order number 1 to Quill Trail Road reconstruction and drainage improvements contract for curbing and median construction for the Babcock Street Phase 3B project and for drainage structure repairs for the Babcock Street reconstruction project. Ms. Jenny Lamb.
Don Lucetti Construction is currently under contract with us for Quail Trail. They are doing very similar work with curb work, with drainage inlet, drainage manhole structures. We are asking for a change order to that Quail Trail contract to complete work that we need with the Babcock Street project. The inlets, like as I mentioned, inlets and manholes need to be repaired. In addition, more than half of this work, or about half of this work, is associated with the Babcock Phase 3B project. And what happened is the 3B project overlapped the boundaries of the reconstruction project. So the segment between Apollo and the railroad tracks was actually part of the 3B project, and it's part of the reconstruction project. Because the Babcock Phase 3B project is it's probably supposed to go out to bid by mid-fall, but we didn't want to go in and tear up the brand new road to put in the median changes and add the length to the turn lane after we had just fixed the road. So we're accelerating that small component between Apollo and the railroad tracks as part of this change order. So recommend approval of change order number 1 to Don Lucetti Construction of Melbourne, Florida for the curbing and median construction associated with the portion of the Babcock Street Phase 3B project and the drainage structure repair associated with the Babcock Street reconstruction project. And that amount is $323,625.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? Seeing none, council, what is your pleasure? Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of change order number 1 to Don Lucetti Construction, Inc. of Melbourne, Florida, for the curbing and median construction associated with a portion of the Babcock Street Phase 3B project number 10216 and the drainage structure repair associated with Babcock Street reconstruction, project number 14118, in the amount of $323,625.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C15 by Vice Mayor Minus and second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Hallelujah. Woo. Item C16 is the construction contract award for Washingtonia Drive Water Main Extension Project to Young's Communications Company, Inc. of Melbourne, Florida. Ms. Jenny Lamb.
This project, the Washingtonia Drive Water Main Extension, it is for the construction of a 12-inch water main along Washingtonia Drive from Lake Washington Road to Province Drive. Washingtonia runs parallel to I-95 in that area. And this project is to improve flow and pressure to the residential area north of Lake Washington Road and west of I-95. We received 4 bids for this project, and the low bidder was Young's Communication of Melbourne, Florida, and the bid amount was $499,332. Recommend award of the construction contract to Young's Communication Company Incorporated of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $499,332 for the Washingtonia Drive Water Main Extension Project.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
I have a
Ms.
question.
Lopez.
Yes, I'm looking at the bids, and I noticed that the highest bid was $772,000. That's quite a difference. Now, do we know why there's such a difference?
We are not sure why there was such a huge difference in the amount. We noticed that also on a staff level, and also the consultant noticed it. We got looking at the bids. Now, if you look at the second bid, it is about $75,000 difference, still a big difference. We did meet with Young's Communication. We talked through their methodology. We made sure, and they think they can do the project for this amount of money, and it works within their schedule to get it done at that time. So we did speak to them, and their prices, their unit prices looked on track for what our engineering cost estimate was also.
Do we get back to these high bids and find out why they're bidding so much. I mean, maybe there's something there that we're not aware of. I mean, I just can't see such a difference. Sometimes you get what you pay for when you get a low bid. Now, maybe it would be a good practice to go back and just search and discuss it with them. And even tell them what the lowest bid is, once you accept it, I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And find out why their bid is so high. We may learn something from it.
And that's something we can definitely do, is talk to these bidders. They're all local bidders, and that's something we have relationships with them and we can do. As far as Young's Communication being the low, we have done many projects with them
Yes,
where they've been low bidder, and we have not had any problems when they've been low bidder on projects.
Oh, I'm sure they're very qualified. It's just maybe they know something we don't.
Well, I will definitely, engineering staff will reach out to them and see where the discrepancies are.
All right, Vice Mayor Minus.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, I know they just don't give us a quote of 702,000 or 499. Isn't it broken down or is itemized on what they're doing and the material and all that they're using, and then it adds up to that?
Yes, it is, and that is in your agenda package on page, the start of 201. And that's what, when you start looking at each of the line items, the low bid amount was not that far off from our engineering cost estimate. And what we're seeing is prices are starting to escalate again in the construction and or in the contracts, and so I don't know if they happen to have some of this piping already on hand or what the case was, but they seem to think they could do it more on the prices that we had been seeing.
Okay, Mr. Alfrey.
Well, and I will say, and I think you'll agree with me, that some companies are more developed, or they're more apt to do this kind of work than others. Their overhead may be different. I can see even in my industry, companies are all over the place, and that's normal. My question would be real quick. I know that we're going to be doing the water line there at the Ellis interchange. Is this going to end up connecting, do you think, with the water there that we're going to be put in? Will that be associated in any way soon?
Not necessarily with the Ellis interchange, but we are adding water lines with that. And the goal is to have a road that does have that connection. And obviously we would want to have the utilities connect to have as many loops as possible.
Right.
And so we can provide the best service.
Good, excellent, thank you.
Mayor?
Will you finish? I'm sorry, Ms. Minus.
No,
I
I
thought you were
just
finished. All right.
That's
all
okay.
right.
No, I just want to comment that I'm very happy anytime there's a company in Melbourne that's awarded a contract. You know, hey, we keep the money in Melbourne, so if we can, I appreciate that. But I just want to note that I'm happy that it is from Melbourne.
Mayor.
Ms. Moore.
I am not concerned about the price difference between these four bidders, because Young has done work for us many times before. It's always been satisfactory, and we've never had an issue with it. So I have to trust that Young knows what they're doing when they put out this bid. So I'm looking forward to working with them.
All right.
Yeah, I don't.
Any other discussion? All right, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
request, I just lost it.
Right here, you want it? Want mine?
And that
You
is
want mine? Here,
number.
there.
184.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll give her mine.
Request approval of award of contract to Young Communications Company Incorporated of Melbourne, Florida, in the amount of $499,332 for the Washington Drive Water Main Extension Project number 3215.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C16 as stated in council's package by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 17 is the consent agenda. I have nothing, nobody removed anything from the consent agenda. So council, items A through I, what is your pleasure? Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of items A through I on our consent
Second.
agenda.
All right, I have a motion for approval of consent agenda items 17A through I by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 19 has been withdrawn. Number 20 is a preliminary plat approval request. SD 2017-03 Hidden Harbor Estates. Let me get right to that. Item 20. Okay, this is under Community Development, Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for preliminary plat approval on an 11.087 acre property located on the south side of West O'Galley Boulevard, west of the FEC Railway and east of Mosswood Drive. Earlier this evening, council did approve second reading for the change for the front acreage of 2.134 acres to change to a future land use of office professional in the zoning of our C1A, as well as the southern part of the property, changing that to a R2 zoning. So the preliminary plat is a follow through on that. Basically, the preliminary plat as it's proposes a total of 34 residential lots. 9 of those are single family homes that are located along the south side here, along with 25 townhomes that are located north of there and towards the O'Galley Boulevard area. The overall density of the residential development will be approximately 3.1 units per acre, which is consistent with the surrounding subdivisions. The typical lot sizes within this, the townhomes are going to be approximately 2,480 square feet, and the single-family detached lots are going to be an average of 19,035 square feet. The lots will have frontage on a private roadway that comes in off O'Galley Boulevard and loops around. The access to Mosswood will only be for emergency and service vehicles, so the residents will access the property fully from the O'Galley Boulevard access area. The applicant is then also proposed in the blue area future development of professional offices in this area here that will be developed. There are 2 recreational tracks for the residential component, a pool area that is located here just behind the townhomes, as well as a pier that goes down between 2 of the single family homes to the water. The Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval of SD 2017-03 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? Oh, for 2 oh, sorry, I missed that. All right, so, yeah, Mr. Moya, I knew you would be there.
Thank you. I think it's just me and my team, so we're only here to answer any questions. I think you've heard it all. So unless there's any objection or any questions, we're here.
All right, any questions for Mr. Moya?
No, but I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
I move
Ms. Lopez?
I have a question.
Okay.
Will we be getting the results of the school impact before the second reading? In other words, has submitted application for capacity determination from the school district staff.
Ms. Dittmer, this is going to be first
Right,
reading,
there's
right?
not a second reading for the preliminary plat.
We'll have the results before then on the school capacity?
Has that already, I mean,
Yeah, there's only one hearing, and it's tonight for the preliminary plat. The school impact analysis is handled at the school board level.
Right.
The staff is not aware of any school impacts on this project. The school board staff has not indicated that to us, so there are not any issues in that resolve.
Okay.
And council will see this again at final plat.
Okay.
After they've gone through construction plan
It will
approval.
be stated then, basically, on our agenda, that there's no impact.
We don't know that.
Yes,
Well,
I
she
believe
said
that
she had a conversation, so I assume.
Yeah, we've not had any indication. We don't have any school capacity issues because our school capacity is the entire county. So there are plenty of seats in the entire county for schools.
Just want to make sure there won't be any problems there, because I know the high school is not too far from there, and I know that's getting pretty crowded, the O'Galley High School. So I just want to make sure that they approve it, that's all. Because I like the project.
okay.
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I'm ready to make my
Yes.
motion.
Okay.
I move for approval of SD 2017-03 based upon the findings and conditions containing in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of SD 2017-03 by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 21, site plan approval request, SP 2018-05. Let me get to that. 100 North Babcock Street additions, and this is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for site plan approval to construct 2 new buildings on 22.91 acres of developed property located on the west side of Babcock Street, north of Brevard Drive and south of Charles Drive. The property is zoned C2 with a small portion of it zoned C1A, and the property is located within the Babcock CRA. The applicant is proposing 2 building additions. And the one to the rear here is a shipping and warehouse building that will be approximately 25,043 square feet. And then the building located in the blue to the front is a 2-story, 38,069 square foot office building. Existing already on site is over 231,000 square feet that is occupied currently by DRS. The project does meet all requirements for setbacks for these additions. Additionally, the project meets all of the setback requirements. There's a 107-foot setback for the shipping and receiving building and an 83-foot setback for the proposed 2-story building in the front, and that's the distance from the single-family houses located to the north. There was a 6-foot masonry wall put up along those homes back in 2009 when an earlier expansion was done on this project. So with that, the Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval of SP 2018-05 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, seeing none, this is quasi judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. And I have Mr. Fred Sutton here. Good to see you, Mr. Sutton.
Thank you. I'm here in case there are any questions. Our engineer was supposed to be here but had a family issue.
Oh, okay.
But I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Sutton?
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
there is a traffic situation, or I should say, there's supposed to be 545 new automobile trips per day in that area because of this addition. I mean, that's quite a lot for Babcock. Babcock is getting pretty crowded now. So.
At least we're fixing it.
This is on the,
I mean,
now, this
it's
is
a
on the
good-
north side of Babcock.
It's on the north side.
Right, and I don't see that much
You
traffic.
don't?
No.
I don't know.
And
I
it-
travel through Babcock, and I know it's getting
It'd be
really.
north of the railroad track, between there and US 1.
Okay, it's just a concern of mine.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor?
Mr. Alfrey.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that's probably one of the least busiest part of Babcock as it is, because there are abandoned buildings there. And
That's correct.
And so, yeah, I think, I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with traffic whatsoever, because we can probably, if we could move some of the traffic to that area, it would kind of work out even better.
That'll probably happen.
Yes, sir.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mayor.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Sutton? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So, council, what is your pleasure? Item C21.
Mayor,
Yeah.
since this
Ms.
is
Moore.
my district, I would like to move for approval of SP 2018-05 based on the findings and conditions containing in the Planning and Zoning memorandum.
Second.
All right. I have a motion for approval of SP 2018-05 by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 22, ordinance number 2018-30, Andretti Thrill Park. Ms. Allison Dolly.
Yes, ma'am. An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to Andretti Thrill Park, providing for the repeal of ordinance numbers 97-64 and 99-34, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow a building height of 66 feet, additional 18 feet of height, to allow for one ride known as the Drop and Twist Tower, and a conditional use to allow changes to an existing outdoor recreation use on an overall 17.58 plus or minus acre developed site, zone CCP, commercial parkway with a conditional use to allow outdoor recreation. Located on the west side of Babcock Street, north of Eber Boulevard and south of Florida Avenue, 3960 South Babcock Street, providing for site plan approval, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional uses granted herein may be revoked by the City Council. If the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CCP, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance for two conditional use requests to allow a building height of 66 feet and also to allow changes to a previously approved conditional use that allows the outdoor recreation use. Along with that is site plan approval on the overall 17.5 acre parcel that's currently zoned CCP with a general commercial future land use. The site is located on the west side of Babcock Street, south of Florida Avenue, and north of Eber Boulevard. The conditional use request is to gain approval for some of the relocated rides and to address new rides that were not previously approved back in 1999 with the original conditional use. The park has needed to make some modifications in the locations of those rides for both safety and separation requirements and just to address the changing business needs of their business. Additionally, there is a request for the Drop and Twist Tower that has been recently installed but is not in operation yet until approval of the conditional use to allow the additional building height. That's the Drop and Twist Tower. As you can see it there, that's the structure that's the 66 feet in height that they're requesting the additional height for. And there's commercial uses that are located to the south and to the east of this property. The city has a canal that abuts the property along the north, and further north of that is a multifamily condominium project. That project, the multifamily is over 230 feet away from the proposed new Drop and Twist Tower. There is one relocated ride that's been relocated that's within the setback requirements. The applicant is going to either obtain a variance for that setback. It's very minor. It's a 3-foot difference, or that ride will need to be moved to be met within the setback requirements. Otherwise, all of the relocated rides do meet the setback requirements. And with that, the Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the request, and staff would recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-30 with site plan approval based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? This is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. On 4 April, I was contacted by Edison Hammond from Andretti's reference issues he was having with zoning and permitting. So I linked him up with the city manager, and I think those issues were addressed, and we're here. But that's my disclosure.
Okay. Anyone? Any other? Okay.
I too also right around that same time. I don't have the exact date, but I can go back and get it. Spoke with him about the issues and also referred him over to the city manager.
Okay. Well, this will be coming second reading, and
I'll have them.
Yeah. Any other disclosures? All right.
I have no disclosure, but I think it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at it, I think it's great. Andretti's been there for years, and this is really a surprising addition.
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I could as well, that organization or that company has also donated a lot of money to Brevard County schools, and they're really big into supporting students.
Right.
I know my kids kind of grew up there, on the Andretti's racetrack. So
That's right.
it's great that this has worked out, and I'm happy for them.
All right, very good.
Mayor, this happens to be in my district, and I'm very excited to be able to see some additional rides come in, and hopefully we'll get some more people out there and having a good time.
Let me open up for public comments, and then we'll bring it back, and then you can make your comments under comments. Comments. Public hearing. Okay, Andy Kerbach, or is it Kerbach? Kerbach. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Andy Karbach, Morgan Associates, Melbourne, Florida.
Okay.
And I'm the engineer, so if you have any questions, I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And if you have any questions, I'm available. And also, someone from Andretti is available also.
Okay. All right. No problem. Any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Also, we just heard that Mr. Andretti's wife passed away about a week ago, so we send our condolences. I know Mr. Andretti comes in periodically to check on things, so please send him our condolences on the passing of his wife.
All right. All right. Nope. All right. Thank you. So I'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Ms. Thomas.
Move for approval of ordinance number 2018-30 with site plan approval SP 2018-10 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of SP 2018-05 as stated in council's package under C21 by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Very good. All right. Item 22. Item 23 was pulled by the applicant. Item 24, ordinance number 2018-33, Consolidated Environmental Engineering. Miss Allison Dolly.
I'm sorry, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by changing the zoning classification from I-1 institutional to C1 neighborhood commercial on 0.7 plus or minus acres located on the east side of Wickham Road, north of Lake Washington Road, and south of Caribbean Isle Boulevard, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance changing the zoning from I-1 zoning to C1 zoning on .70 acres located on the east side of Wickham Road, north of Lake Washington Road, and south of Caribbean Isle Boulevard. The property was previously zoned C1 back prior to 1993. The applicant is planning to redevelop the site that was formerly a batting cage business, converting it back to a professional office use. That use is not permitted in the I-1 district, but it is permitted in the proposed C1 district. Currently, the property has general commercial future land use, and the C1 zoning will be consistent with that future land use designation. In the surrounding facility, you have our Mallard's Landing Golf Course that surrounds the property. There are other commercially zoned properties along Wickham Road, and there are also commercial properties located immediately to the south and west of the property. With that, the Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval ordinance number 2018-33 based upon the findings and condition contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
I have just one.
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
It might be here in my packet, and I just haven't located it. But the batting, when they'd go into the batting practice, they would pull in off of Wickham.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
That's going to continue in that narrow driveway there?
Yeah, you could see it a little bit in this area. It's a two-way driveway up in this area here. It's a full two-way driveway that gets you in into that. It's shared.
Yeah, it runs right alongside of the fast food restaurant.
Right. Yeah, which is a joint use driveway. Right.
Yeah.
Can I order a hamburger?
That was my only concern. There is the driveway, but if we've addressed it, that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right. This is quasi judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? I have no sign-up sheets, so I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
approval of ordinance number 2018-33 based upon the findings and condition contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-33 by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 25 is ordinance number 2018-34. Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to Babcock Street redevelopment plan, making findings, amending Chapter 20 of the City Code entitled Community Planning and Development, amending Section 20-170, duration of agency, extending the duration of the agency to September 9th, 2024, amending Section 20-172, Community Redevelopment Plan, approved, providing for the adoption of an amendment to the Babcock Street redevelopment plan, providing for severability and interpretation, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance amending City Code, Chapter 20, Sections 20-170 and 20-172, another good Babcock Street item we have this evening. The proposed Babcock Street CRA plan amendment, which is contained within this ordinance, was a condition of the amendment to the three-party interlocal agreement that the city, county, and the CRA approved. We approved it back on June 12th earlier this year. With that amendment, it allowed for the new sunset date for Babcock CRA to extend to September 9th, 2024, and to also add drainage infrastructure improvements into the Babcock Street project that will now also be identified within the redevelopment plan. So this is an amendment doing just those two things. And with that, the Planning and Zoning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed amendment, and staff would recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-34.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? I have no sign-up sheets. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of ordinance number 2018-34.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-34 by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus.
I think it was me.
I thought you.
I did.
Yeah, she said,
did you?
yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear
And then
it.
you kind
Sorry.
of like was right at, you know.
Right there?
Yeah, right
there.
after that. All right, so, any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Mayor,
Yeah, Mr.
Whatever his name is.
McNeese.
At this time of the night.
still here.
No, we're not here till 11, okay? We're trying, you know.
I'll do this quickly, and I'm probably not going to do it very well because it's not something I do, but I'm going to pat myself on the back. Here's why. I was pretty soundly criticized this evening in one of these evaluations for favoring projects in the CRA. And
All that too, but.
And here's what I want to point out. This project on Babcock Street has been probably the biggest thorn in our side since well before I arrived in Melbourne. And I have a lot of people had a lot of ideas, and one of them sitting right there in the front row, one of your fine Babcock CRA representatives, with how can we attack this problem? Well, the notion of how we tied together the extension of the CRA, promise to use that money, all those little machinations, that was my idea. And I don't think I've ever said anything like that before in a city council meeting. And that it died a couple times, and that we ran into a couple hurdles that required us to go back and find another solution to extend another year and another year to find the money in an environment where the county commissioners, half of them hate the CRAs, and then one of the last thing on earth they want to talk about is extending the CRA for any purpose. And so the way we used this CRA and leveraged that to accomplish this project for the benefit of the entire community, frankly, I think is a fantastic use of the CRA. And I guess I have to just take the moment to point out that's what I do. If y'all wonder what I do around here all day, if I sit there and look like I'm doing nothing, my brain's running. And we pull this thing together, and I'm not the work by a lot of other people, a lot of other ideas. The mayors, a couple of county commissioners had great ideas to pull together. But I think this is an example of the CRA being used in a fantastic way to solve a problem that had we not had that tool, I don't know what we would have done. So I'm kind of patting myself on the back, but this is a great example of if we use the tools that we've got and work together on them, we can accomplish great things. And I just got to point that out.
And two, also, we city manager and I met with Commissioner Kirk Smith and his staff.
He was
and
very supportive of this.
So this
very,
is
very
how,
supportive.
and I'm pretty sure there were other council members making phone calls too. So it is a team effort.
Absolutely. I know one of the other council ladies was in touch with her counterpart in the county too, from her district, and a lot of effort went into this on everybody's part. And so I thank you, and I thank myself too.
And I think we should get a thank you letter from the county because, they only put in 500,000,
Mayor.
And I promise not to make a habit of doing that.
I think it's very important to know that I'm certainly sure the community will be very thankful, the ones that live in that area and the ones that go to work in that area.
Yeah, that's right. It benefits the whole community and the Space Coast. There's no doubt about it.
It will be nice to have people say, when are you going to do the Babcock Street?
Yes.
Get rid of those potholes. And I say soon. And they said, but you've been saying that for a long time. So I am glad I'm not going to have to say that.
I know. Well, I think once the project gets started, all right, Jenny, I'm going to,
it's all on your shoulders.
August 1st, if I don't see anything, you get, what's your cell phone number? I'm
Yes,
going to call
if it goes bad from this point forward, it's Jenny.
That's right.
Can we do a groundbreaking so that we can start the first digging on that?
We talked about doing some kind of ribbon cutting or get out there and just say, all right. And,
We will.
that's going to include Commissioner
all of them. We will.
Snarty. Excuse me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like a good idea. And then they're going to say, what are they out there for?
Yeah.
In the hard hat.
Or they're going to say, I don't like this inconvenience that they're putting me through on this road. You know,
please be patient.
Be patient.
Yeah, because when it's done, we always get the compliments. So.
Maybe we could put up big signs that say, be patient.
Okay. Be happy.
Be happy.
Be happy. All right.
Don't worry, be happy.
All right, item 26, resolution number 3755, 26. Okay, this is going to come from the city attorney's office. It's a resolution approving a land conveyance from the city of Melbourne to Highline Apartments LLC for the Highline redevelopment project. And there's our assistant city attorney.
Good evening, Adam Conley, Assistant City Attorney. As the mayor said, this resolution 3755 relates to a transfer of city-owned property to Highline Apartments LLC as part of the Highline redevelopment project. Just very quick background, as council will recall, in February of 2017, city and the CRA entered into the master redevelopment agreement for the Highline redevelopment project. As a part of that agreement, the city agreed to provide a portion of city-owned property. It's roughly 0.86 plus or minus acres of property to assist in the development of that project. The purpose of this resolution is threefold. One, to effectuate the terms of the master redevelopment agreement to ensure that all city code requirements for disposition of city-owned property are complied with. And third, as a matter of administrative convenience, to not have to attach the previous resolutions that were approved because they're 200 some odd pages. It's fairly big, so a nice short 3-page resolution will be easier for the public records. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. Essentially, the developer, and as city staff can attest to, the developer's nearing completion of prerequisites necessary for the conveyance of that property and to move out of the pre-construction phase and into the actual construction phase. We're hoping that we move from one stage to the other, hopefully by the end of next week, and finish this property conveyance. And with that, city staff recommends approval of resolution 3755.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Any questions for Mr. Conley? All right, seeing none, this is a public hearing. I have two sign-up sheets. One is Madeline Jones. Madeline Jones. Okay, no Madeline Jones. Okay, and then I think this is Butcher, B-U, or Mr. Phillips. Mr. Phillips, are you in the house? All right, no, they are not here. So I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3755.
Second.
Excuse me, I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3755 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? I'm trying to write and then read, and that doesn't work.
Ma'am, you're thinking about
And-
that Checkers hamburgers, what
Yeah,
you think?
yes, that's it. And the fries, too. All right. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Thank you.
Good work.
So we had a no-show. Okay, item number 27, resolution number 3756. Let me
Yes, ma'am. This was an item that I had added to the agenda. We were hoping to be able to go forward, but we didn't get the signed contract, and so I couldn't go forward with it. And we went ahead and had done the required advertising under city code. So I'm going to ask for a motion to continue it so that we so that it's acknowledged that we did the proper advertising for you to make your determination. So actually, just a request for a motion to continue the matter pending receipt of an executed purchase agreement.
Before I do that, I need to open up for public comments. And do I have any public comments? Seeing none?
Mayor,
Public hearing? I don't have any sign-up sheets, right? Correct. All right, so I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
I so move what she said.
Okay. All right, all right, so a motion, so they say that again, Ms. Dolly?
If we could just continue it to I think it's going to be the next meeting because I received the signed contract this afternoon at about 4:00.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be the next council
So Ms.
meeting.
Moore made a motion,
I'll second it.
and who's second?
Continue the,
Mr. Alfrey?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Second,
Yes.
okay, because I had Ms.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right.
Mayor, I
Discussion.
do have a question.
Ms.
So
Thomas.
for this delay, delay wasn't on the city side delay. This is because the airport wasn't prepared yet to have the final paperwork that we needed to have.
They were still
for us to be able to
negotiating.
vote on this.
That's right. They were just negotiating the terms, and at that point, my understanding was the terms were being finalized. They just hadn't been executed yet by the buyer.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right. And those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right, without objection, council will convene as the Melbourne Downtown Community Redevelopment Agency for the following item 28. This is, let me get right to it, under Community Development, Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for approval of a facade improvement grant in the amount of $20,000 for exterior renovations to a building located at 2421 Stone Street with the property owners Pirouette Group LLC. Exterior renovations will include painting of the exterior walls, installing new railings, lighting, adding a wood accent wall and a custom metal gate, and replacing windows and doors on the building. The estimated cost for all of the eligible exterior improvements is $105,722. The applicant is eligible for up to 50% of those improvement costs, up to a maximum of $20,000. I just wanted to show council, this is the current facade, as the building is not necessarily today, but not too long ago. And the proposed facade improvements that the facade grant will be supporting will be the new painting, the railings. You can see the doors and windows. That's one elevation. I'll show you another one. That's I think the back side there, and then the proposed elevation that'll be on that side. Council may be familiar with this project. We did award the project SHIP funding back in October of 2017. We awarded the property owners money to rehabilitate the entire structure and to provide 7 affordable housing units, a minimum of 7 affordable housing units. The overall project budget on this is $836,000. The SHIP grant that you previously have approved, that is secured through a mortgage note and a land use restriction agreement through the 15-year affordability period. The Melbourne Downtown Redevelopment Committee did unanimously vote to recommend that City Council approve the $20,000 in CRA funding to Pirouette Group for the proposed facade improvements at 2421 Stone Street. And staff would recommend approval of the Melbourne Downtown CRA facade improvement grant in the amount of $20,000 for 2421 Stone Street, and authorization for the city manager to execute a grant agreement with the applicant.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Mayor?
Ms. Lopez?
Again, about holding or continuing ownership of the building for a specific time, maybe 5 years, again, should be a condition in this type of money giving out by the CRA for improvement to these buildings. But what's the update on that?
So as we spoke at the June 12th meeting, staff is taking that as a change to the facade guidelines to each of the 3 CRA advisory committees. I expect that we will probably be back to council, I'd say late August, but probably more like early September with the 3 CRA boards' recommendation as well.
Okay, I just don't want all of a sudden we get a whole bunch of these improvements before that deadline. But since this is a affordable housing units, I can support this.
All right, Vice Mayor Minus.
Mayor, I'd just like to, could you refresh my memory on the amount of SHIP funds that this organization received?
Yes, it was $350,000 for the acquisition and rehabilitation of the property.
Okay, for the acquisition and rehabilitation, that did not include any work, if you will, or whatever, and this is additional that we're asking, or that the company is asking?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't follow your question.
Okay, they received $350,000 for rehab and acquisition, and now for rehab, that's what my emphasis is on, and now we are requesting $20,000 additional dollars. The $350 did not include that.
Actually, the overall project budget, although the facade improvement grant was not a guarantee, they had talked with staff about the ability to request these funds from the very beginning. So that was part of what they were looking at in their overall budget. Yeah, obviously, there was no guarantee of those $20,000 until council approved that, but that is something that they were looking at in the beginning because it is an eligible project. It does fit within the guidelines to improve blighted structures by doing these exterior improvements.
Okay, the $350,000 did not include exterior.
The $350,000, along with the loan and the additional money that the property owners are putting in, the project budget is well over $836,000, and it's probably over that amount at this point. It's a very expensive project to rehabilitate this type of structure.
Okay, maybe it'd been cheaper to bulldoze it. It's my personal opinion. But, okay, that was my question on that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
It does seem like almost like an oxymoron that it would cost, okay, $836,000, but yet we're asking $20,000 for facade improvements. I just, I don't get that. With all the money that's being spent, and we're still coming up with $20,000 for facades. I just, not a good use of taxpayer money.
Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, I'll say that I don't agree with the facade program as the CRA. It, again, my feeling is it gets a lot more attention. The CRA gets a lot more attention when I got a district that has roads caving in and a lot of issues. But I will tell you, I don't think there's a structure in this city that's had more police calls and more issues than 2421 Stone. I will tell you, patrolling that area for years, if any area in the city can use some help, it's definitely that. And again, I applaud the Herodines for taking this on. I just need a moment to decide, because normally I don't like these facade improvement grants, but then again, if any place would need it in the city, that would be that location.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I would agree completely with you. I think that this is a terrific project. I think we are in dire need of affordable housing within the city of Melbourne in any way possible that we can make sure and help to get that going. I can only go forward and say that I would be for it. So at this point, I think that is included in their budget of what they need to upgrade this building to what it needs to be, and I support that.
All right. It shows here no public hearing, but I do have a sign-up sheet by Mr. Herendeen. So under public comments, you want to come up, Mr. Herendeen? Who is the owner of that building?
Thank you very much. Sorry, sitting down for a while. Thank you very much for your support, and I'm here for any questions that you may have.
All right, any questions?
Yep, yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Herding, how's it going there? Can you fill me in on that?
It's going well. Construction rehabbing takes a little bit longer, being in the roofing business. We did have to eventually remediate the building. Had to remove some lead and asbestos out of the building, and took a little bit of time there. And couldn't do any of the work on the property until the occupants that inside were given notice. Mm-hmm. That took some time to get out there. And we're in the process of going forward with taking the roof off. Had some delays there, but we should be, other than the time frame for permitting, we should have that done. And once that's done and it gets dried in, as soon as the roof starts going on, then we can start to order windows and doors, and it's going to move along pretty nicely. So it's just taking a little bit of time, but yeah, we're eager to go, and definitely want to thank the council again for voting on the trespass ordinance. Little things go a long way.
Have you had any issues there with crime or any problems? Because I know there was an element there prior that that probably didn't want you there.
Yeah, I've gotten a few hand signals from time to time from folks carousing about the neighborhood that probably aren't happy with me being there, or calling as often as I do. I say hi and bye. I'm as polite as I can, and I don't engage disingenuously when I don't have to. Biggest issue that we've had did have to do with a lot of loitering that was going on one of the side streets. Kind of hard to explain, but literally mattresses that were set up with folding chairs in the middle of either an easement or in the middle of a vacant lot next to the railroad tracks. I can't begin to explain that psychologically, but it is a concern that as we start to go and we start to do the rehabbing, we did have a window that got broken out, but no evidence of anybody sleeping there overnight. And that could have been anybody. That could have been someone just, somebody being tired. Right. The vicarious concern going forward is that when it goes in, I know how we're going to manage the property, and I know the background searches that we're going to do and the kind of engagement that we're going to have with people. But I do vicariously worry that especially with the trespass letter and how folks are engaged in the community, especially from a community policing level, how officers are engaging in the community. And I know, in talking with Officer Ryan Allen recently, I know that there's some discussions over trying to do more, committing to a longer period of time, going door to door, saying hello to folks, making inroads, trying to talk to property owners about being a little bit more responsible with how they're engaging folks, and sort of taking the adage of, well, if they're not bothering me, I'm not going to bother them, and that doesn't work anymore. It hasn't worked in a long time. So just worry about how the effect of when new young professional tenants come in, and simply because you are low income qualified does not mean that you aren't a young urban professional. Right. So we get good young urban professionals. It's not easy, but they are there.
I will make a comment, Mr. Harradine, that area needs you, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Again, working through there many years, I've seen how that area is. There's some wonderful people there. There's people that want the area cleaned up. Again, normally I do not approve the facade grants or vote for them. This is affordable housing. This is really needed in that community, and I'm going to make the exception on this one. Again, thank you for what you've done so far.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Herendeen.
Thank you.
All right, that address is very familiar. It
Yeah.
comes up at the Melbourne Police Community Relations Council.
Yeah.
Continuously.
Okay, so if Mr. Herendeen has a good program to screen the tenants, that's definitely going to help. All right, so council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
I move for approval of a Melbourne Downtown CRA Facade Improvement Program grant in the amount of $20,000 for 2421 Stone Street, and authorization for the city manager to execute a grant agreement with the applicant.
Second.
I have a motion for approval under C28 as stated in council's package by Ms. Thomas, second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. If it's no objection, council will reconvene for the following items. Item 29, resolution number 3753. This will be Ms. Shannon Lewis will be doing this discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last City Council meeting, the space needs assessment related to the new police department headquarters facility as well as financing options was discussed with the City Council. Council authorized us to come back to you with the appropriate resolutions to effectuate a general obligation bond, which would require authorization and approval by the electors of the city through a referendum. A general obligation bond would be secured by the full faith and credit of the city by a pledge of the city's taxing power. And if approved, the additional property tax revenue would be raised each year to pay for the debt specific to only this project. And as we previously mentioned, the estimated annual debt payment on a $35 million issue would be $2.5 million over a 20-year period, $2.5 million a year over a 20-year period, with an estimated millage, at least with today's numbers, of 0.5988 mils. You previously adopted Resolution 3754 under consent this evening, and that was to meet the city code required notice of referendum, so that satisfied the city code requirement. What you have attached with this item satisfies the statutory requirements that are set forth for any local government wishing to put out a referendum for general obligation bonds. So the attached resolution would authorize the issuance, subject to the referendum, of the general obligation bonds not to exceed $35 million in aggregate principal. It authorizes the bond referendum to be held at the general election on November 6th of this year. It approves the notice of bond referendum, which we will be required to advertise multiple occasions within the newspaper. And it also provides for the ballot language, which is on page 481 of your agenda packet. And the language of the referendum is very specific. It was worked on in conjunction with our city attorney's office, our bond counsel, our finance department, and our financial advisors. So there are very specific requirements, including number of words and types of words that have to be in there. And so the language of the referendum provides for that maximum flexibility that the city would want in borrowing to ensure we only borrow what we need, but it's capped at the $35 million amount. So that would mean we could issue different series of bonds at different times, but no one series could extend beyond the 20 years. And in the aggregate principal could not go over the $35 million threshold. So those are hard numbers that would be approved within, if approved by the voters, that will be in the ballot question and in the referendum. So if the referendum is approved in November, there will be a second resolution. So tonight's vote doesn't authorize actually issuing the bonds. It sets forth the process for the voters to decide whether they will approve that. And if they do, then we will come back to you with a subsequent resolution that will allow us to issue the bonds. And that will provide our finance department, working with those other entities I previously mentioned, flexibility in going to the market to get the best rates and also to borrow only what we need in that financing strategy. If the referendum is not approved, then as we mentioned at the last meeting, we would return to you with other options that you could consider, the plan B, if you will. So this evening, staff is recommending approval of resolution number 3753, which would put forward the referendum for the general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed principal amount of $35 million at the general election in November. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Any questions for
Yeah, I
Ms.
do
Lewis?
have one.
All right, Ms. Moore. and then-
I'm reading in section 7, the bond referendum results. We're talking here that it has to be a majority of the votes cast. It doesn't have to be a certain percentage,
That's correct.
just a majority.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No,
No,
that-
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, the last time we discussed this, I knew there was going to be a millage increase, but there's going to be a millage increase subsequent year from year to year, correct?
Each year, in order to pay the debt service, the city would be required to separately show what the millage rate would be. So the millage rate dedicated to paying off this particular issue will be shown from year to year and could fluctuate up and down, but it will be fairly flat. But yeah, you would look at your values each year. So that millage rate could change, but it's dedicated and raised each year to pay this issue.
But it'd be a very small amount. It's like you said, it'd almost be a flat type of
Well,
rate.
the dollar figures will be set out within the schedule. So we'll have our debt service schedule. And I think there's it's not in this packet, but in the previous packet, our financial advisors have showed us on a 20-year period what our principal and interest payments would be for that $35 million issuance based upon the rates estimated at that time.
Right.
So to give you a good idea, it's going to stay fairly consistent.
In the full length of the loan.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha, okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? I hope that, we maxed it out to 35 million, but I'm hoping that can be reduced by really looking at it hard. So, all right, council, what is your pleasure? Item number 29, resolution 3753.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3753.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3753 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Item C30, City Council Rules of Procedure, City Clerk's Office, I want to say Dolly because she does the legal. It's Miss Weiser. Miss Weiserheimer. Okay, wait.
I'll be Mrs. Weiser tonight. All right. So city council rules of procedure, they relate to city council meetings, how you function during your meetings. And the rules are intended to supplement city code, not repeat city code, which is why you've seen so many of the rules in here stricken, because they are already contained in city code. So you use your resolution in conjunction with the city code. The rules have been revised to reflect changes that City Council has made over the past few years, and also changes reflected in City Code. There are no new rules proposed with this resolution. I can go one by one if you'd like, or I can answer questions if Council's had an opportunity to review the underline and strike through document.
All right, council, what is your pleasure? Did you, pretty sure you had a chance to read all it's in the package, so if you had any questions? All right. You've answered all the questions. So council, what is your pleasure? Resolution number 3760.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3760.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3760 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Moore.
I think this is a good idea, but I'm wondering if there isn't a point of where we've always allowed people public comment on any of our items.
Absolutely.
But I'm wondering if we shouldn't reach a point of where we limit them to, like the county is doing, like to 3 items instead of, in the past, we've had people get up and comment, run up and get a form and comment on 7 separate items during our meeting.
Okay. Ms. Dolly?
Is that possible?
It depends on how you structure it. If you're going to have the public, every person has to have the opportunity to comment on any of your agenda items, for the most part, other than the pledge or something like that. To that end, you could take all comment in the beginning and not take any comment and run through all your items. But if you're going to take comments, you can't say, oh, you spoke on 3 other items. You're not allowed to talk on this item. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. How is county handling it?
I don't know how they're doing that within the confines of the state law.
Okay, all right. Just a thought.
Okay. Item 31 is the Melbourne Housing Authority, appointment of 1 member. This is from the city clerk's office, Ms. Weiser. And the request is to approve the mayor's appointment.
Absolutely. In accordance with state law, the mayor has the authority to appoint members to this board. However, it does require confirmation by the city council.
All right, so council, what is your pleasure?
So move.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item 31 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Yes, Mayor, and the record will reflect that that's the appointment of Tommy Sokola to the board.
As stated in council's package. All right, next is D, petitions, remonstrances, and communications. Do I have any?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I would ask on July 17th, we are going to be having the community meeting for Ruffner Park for the dog park. I know that we've sent letters out to the adjacent neighborhoods, but if possible, I would really like something to be posted at the park. There are a lot of people that are not necessarily right into the adjacent area of the park, but live a few streets over that may not have received the letter, so that if we could put something up at the park just stating that meeting is when it is, what time and the place.
That's actually a very good idea.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor.
Okay, Vice Mayor Minus, and then Mr. Thomas.
Just want to remind everyone about on July 12th, the Melbourne Police Community Relations Council will be held at Carver Park, 7 p.m.
Right.
Please come in and voice your concerns.
All right. Thank you.
And we can talk about Dale's Freeze.
Oh, yes, that was great news.
Yes.
Congratulations
Very
on
good.
that, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Ms. Lopez.
Yes, I would like to see if the council agree that we, during the summer months, can wear our city shirts instead of our blazers, if it's okay with everyone here.
Yes. The months would be maybe
Summer months,
like
July.
June, July,
Yeah.
August.
June is fine too.
It'll be September.
All the mayor?
Whoa, okay. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Nice and comfortable.
Yeah.
Memorial Day to Labor Day is a convenient bracket for kind of summer.
Okay.
Although it's still hot in September.
It's still
so.
hot.
Yeah.
All right. So if everybody's agreeable, then we'll make it can we make this a policy or?
An option.
An option.
Or.
I think what council members choose to wear to meetings should just be a practice rather than a stated policy. I don't know how
Okay.
you feel about that.
All right.
I think
I'm
so
off
too.
of that.
That sounds good. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lopez. That was a good option.
Some of us are not real hot and some of us are a little on the cool side. So give us the option of what we'd like to wear.
All right,
Fine.
thank you. All right, Mr. Thomas.
I just like to say I spent a week ago Monday doing a ride along during the daytime with the Melbourne Police Department, and just a great job. You know, in the world that we live in nowadays, I mean, police have always been in harm's way, but even more so now because of the craziness that's out there. And to even understand that when these guys take a break, that they have to back their vehicles back to the backside of a building, so they know that nobody's going to sneak up behind them unexpectedly and try to do something to them.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. So again, I commend our police force and Deputy Chief. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being here. And these guys are very professional. It just so happened I've done a night ride along before, and it was kind of uneventful. But this day ride along I did, they had a huge fight down at Paradise Beach involving 30 people. Paradise Beach.
No way.
And so that was very interesting. And again, our guys conducted themselves very professionally. There was a lot of confusion going on because of he said, she said, and different stories going on.
Of
and
course.
but they were able to straighten it out and calm things down and get those folks out of there that needed to be out of there. So great job, and I'm very proud of our Melbourne police force.
Yeah, I am too.
Mayor?
Proud of them. Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
I thought, I was under the impression that you couldn't do any ride-alongs with the police department. That's what I was told when I tried to ride along.
Oh, you can?
No, there
I
was
tried
a
to ride-
there
There was a
was.
policy.
It
Yes.
was.
I tried to ride along too years
Yeah,
ago, and I
years ago.
was told no.
And it might have been under the former chief.
It was under Chief
It was under
Mims.
former
He
chief.
kind
It
of-
was the former
But
chief.
you could not ride along. Now, I did years ago when the police did a prostitution sting and all that. That was
interesting.
That was very interesting.
But if our policy now has opened it up,
I was just going to ask: is our policy opened up now? Because that wasn't before.
It was closed.
Absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, and Chief Gillespie is more welcome. We welcome any community member, representative that wants to ride.
Okay.
Members of the council, Madam Mayor, absolutely encourage it.
Okay.
Perfect.
We
Thank
just
you.
don't want any of you on involuntary ride-alongs, riding in the back.
And you can ride on the boat too as well. If you need to.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I'm glad we changed the policy because that wasn't the case.
How did he find
They
out?
stopped
Right.
letting us ride along.
Yeah, it was.
Great, I'll do it.
I don't know why. It was,
Did it.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna line
I'd like
up
to
for
bring
that.
up one thing, and that is the Front Street boat ramp. I think we need to do a survey on. Some of the boaters are saying they can't put their boat in because there's it's filling in the dirt, and also in front of the chart house, there are boats getting stuck. So
That's right.
Mr. Jerry Sampson from Fine is saying there's money out there and cities are not taking advantage of it. And we need to put this in the hopper. So let's look at that. I love to see boaters out there. I mean, it's great for our economy. It's great for our city. And it's always busy.
Mayor, I have one more point on that.
Yeah.
You just reminded me, at Front Street, we have the restrooms there. I've had a couple citizens ask that they do close at a certain time, but right now, because it's summer and the hours are later, I was wondering if we could maybe extend maybe an hour or so the bathroom closing.
I have exacted a promise from the Parks and Recreation Director, with whom I've been arm wrestling for about 3 years over those hours, that as of October 1st, they'll be extended. I'll see if we can, I'll go to work. It's more complicated than it seems, but it shouldn't be unsolvable.
Great, thank you.
I agree with you.
This has been an issue for years.
Mayor.
All right, Ms. Moore.
Again, Jerry Sampson from Fine. We were at their conference. We were discussing what they can fund and what they can't fund. And I was really, I said, because we're doing Babcock Street, or Ballard Park.
Yeah, Ballard Park.
Ballard Park, and I said, it's just too bad we can't do the restrooms there. And he said, where are they? I explained where they are, and he said, well, I can give you funds for that. But I understand that the rowing team might be funding the bathroom along with a facility for the storage. But in case that falls through for some reason, I want to keep in mind that there is money from Fine out there.
Yeah.
So that we can go ahead with that restroom, because they keep patching it back together. I've checked with Kevin Brisky. We keep patching it back together, and it's to a point of where it does need to be replaced.
Okay.
So let's keep that in mind.
Why don't we have that as priority with fine and let the kids who are raising money and use it to their own good? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know whether they've already drawn up the plans. I'll have to check. But this is what I think Mr. Brisky said to me, that the facility would be large enough to store their kayaks or whatever, and their materials, and as well as a restroom. But I want to keep that as an option.
Okay.
That we don't have to spend the money on it.
Mr. Brisky has been in negotiation with the Sarasota High School rowing team, the people who organized the team, over a proposal they would build a boathouse for themselves and a restroom in exchange for having access. It's really a great deal. It hasn't come to you yet because it's not ripe yet. You have to approve that. It's your part. So absolutely, if there's a way for the fine money to make it a better project, we can certainly look at that. But that is a conversation that he's been in for a little while and probably be ripe before very long.
Well, I was impressed because I thought we couldn't fine wouldn't come through for a restroom, but as long as it's in relation to a dock, they will fund it.
Oh, that's good.
So
that's
if
good
not,
to know.
let's keep it in the back of our mind for else within the city.
All right, sounds good. Anything else?
Yes, Mayor.
Oh, Vice Mayor Minus.
Hey, I know a few months ago, in May, we lost one of our directors. And my concern again is about the lighting on US 1 and Melbourne, if you will.
Yes.
There are, I don't know if they're grids or what, but 10, 15, 20 lights at a time are out.
Yeah.
And it's throughout the city, but more so on US 1 because that is the gateway, the main gateway to the city, from both ends. So if we can have someone or to look at those lighting again so that I won't have to stop at every light and take a picture and give it to Mr. Bart.
Where you can help us most directly is when you see them, drop me a text. I'm at such and such a location, the street light's out. And we try to get all of our folks to do the same thing. Well, I'll certainly work with facilities and see if there's a systematic problem. I'm not aware of one, but you can really help us. You're out there at night, you see them, let us know where they're out.
Mr. McNeese, we need a city employee that will drive down our main roads. We used to have one that did this at night. They can't tell whether they're out during the day, but we've talked about this, like from Rosser Chevrolet going north. I can't tell you how many lights are out.
We
there.
talked about, you brought this up before,
Can't
so
tell
this
you
is
how
nothing
many
new.
times.
I mean,
But it's fine for us to shoot it off to you and say this light is out.
right.
But this is a city
I'll do it right now.
employee job that I think could go out during the night on our main roads and check this.
We do have facilities people who on a periodic basis do go out and look at the lights.
I haven't.
With all due respect, I guess what I say is we need city employee to do XYZ, and there's a lot of XYZs.
Of course there is.
We do have a program. We do have people in our facilities department, the electricians, who do check the lights periodically, but they can't be out there every day. They can't really be out there every week.
It's been
so
months.
we do that, and we try to get. If you are willing to help us when you see them and let us know where they are, we would appreciate it, and we'll keep trying to keep up with it as best we can.
Mr. McNeese, we have said this over and
many
over again.
times?
And it seems like a line of lights. And, Mayor from Town of Palm Shores, Carol McCormick,
Yes.
will tell you that they had issues with a subcontractor under Florida Power and Light. And so, but we've been having this for months.
I
So-
appreciate that, Mayor, and some of them are issues, and many of them are FP&L issues. I can promise you that 9 o'clock
Right.
tomorrow morning, I'll be penciling in something that's not currently in your budget. Will be a body devoted specifically to those streetlights.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's public safety. It's
Yeah.
just absolute public safety
They
on
get
this.
fixed and then they go out. So I don't know, yeah, I think there's some
We have
issues.
some issues.
All right, anything else? All right, so I will adjourn the meeting at 9:38. All right.